All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the DATAcated Expo. This is going to include part one of the DATAcated Expo because we have so many amazing speakers and topics to cover today. We're doing an all-day event with a break in the middle. All right, I'm going to go ahead and kick things off and just let you know what you can expect for the day. First of all, I really want to thank our speakers because without our amazing speakers, this event simply would not happen. We have 24 great speakers that we're going to hear from today. I also want to thank our sponsors, SciSense, Alteryx, TIBCO, and Narrative Science. Thank you so much for your support. Additionally, we have some really amazing community partners that are giving away some cool prizes. So the DATAcated Academy, Lights on Data, the Ravit Show, Data Career Jumpstart, Business Science, Data Science Infinity, and Data with Danny. Thank you guys so much. We're going to do giveaways throughout the session. Let's go ahead and review our agenda briefly. We've got part one, which we're kicking off right now, and then we're going to take a quick break at around 2 o'clock and then regroup at 3 p.m. Eastern for part two. Now, if you have not registered already, please go to datacated.com/expo. This will allow you to get the recordings after the session as well as some virtual goodies. All right, part one is officially here, and we're going to go ahead and kick things off in just 1 second. I'm going to introduce to you our very first speaker, Mr. Scott Taylor. He is going to talk to us about how every data journey begins with determining the truth. Scott has helped countless companies by enlightening business executives to the strategic value of proper data management. His book, Telling Your Data Story, Data Storytelling for Data Management, is available now. He's actually giving away a copy of his book to someone in the audience. I'm going to tell you which hashtag to use in order to participate. I'm going to put it up on screen, or if you want to start typing it in now, it's hashtag truth. Scott is an avid business evangelist and original thinker. He continuously shares his passion for the value of data management through various industry events, speaking opportunities such as at the DATAcated Expo. He's got blogs, videos, white papers, podcasts, cartoons, and yes, puppet shows. He's basically covering all forms of thought leadership. He lives in Connecticut, where he often kayaks in Black Rock Harbor. He can also juggle pins and blow a square bubble. I always think it's odd when I say that, but either way, I'm going to go ahead and bring up Scott Taylor here. Hello, hello.
Oh, hey, I'm here. I'm fully swagged. Kate, how are you? Great to see you.
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I'm thrilled to be here. Ready to go. So someday I'll blow a square bubble for you. I promise, but not today.
I would love to see that. Before we kick things off, I just want to show people how to participate in the giveaway. I know you're giving away your awesome book, so everybody, if you want to participate, type in hashtag truth. I see we've got a bunch of entries in there already.
There you go. Hashtag truth.
Hashtag truth will get you there. So go ahead and type that into the comments. We're going to do a raffle at the end of Scott's presentation. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and jump off the screen and take it away, Scott. I'll see you in 10 minutes.
You got my slides in there? Where are they? There we go. How are you? Hi, everybody. There we go. That's perfect. I am thrilled and delighted to be here. Let me set my timer. I got 10 minutes. I'm here just kicking this whole thing off for my great friend, Kate. Every data journey begins with determining the truth. The truth in data. That's my focus for today. And the truth is, let's hear it for Kate. All right. Right away. She puts these things together. Let's hear it. Let's see the emojis coming up here. The thumbs up, the hearts, the claps, the light bulbs. Let's see that emoji steam coming up from StreamYard and LinkedIn Live there, YouTube, wherever you're watching from. Let's give it to Kate. Here's one of my favorite pictures of Kate as well, holding my book, Telling Your Data Story, Data Storytelling for Data Management. 99% buzzword free. The book is catching on here. There's a whole bunch of folks picking up that book. You could be one of them. Everything I'm talking about today is in the book. I put all my thinking in the book there. Highlighted in this montage, of course, one of my favorites, my wonderful grandson, the Data Whisperer Jr., who is accompanies me in one of my latest videos, Data Bedtime Stories. You got to watch this one. Just posted on YouTube. It was a big hit in LinkedIn. The Little Red Data Hen, a cautionary tale about the lack of stakeholder engagement in the data space. We all do it. It was such a hit. We're doing another one. I won't give it away, but I'll tell you the title, The Emperor's New Dashboard. You already know how it ends, don't you? See, sometimes these things write themselves. Thank you to the Data Whisperer Jr., and please check out the Little Red Data Hint. Every data journey begins with determining the truth. You've heard me say this before. If you've watched me ever on any of Kate's shows, you know I am all about determining the truth in data. Most of the time, most of the value you get from most of your data is about growing your business, improving your business, and protecting your business. I just want to give you a scope of what I'm going to share with you today. I'm sure you could spend your time finding some exceptions to what I'm going to talk about, but I will tell you, having worked with every kind of enterprise at every level of data maturity in every category all over the earth, most of the time, most of the value they get from most of their data is focused on how you grow the business, increase sales, improve the business, operational efficiency, protect the business, mitigate risk. Those things, whether you're a data scientist, data analyst, business intelligence, data visualization, whatever part of the world you're in or the category, these are the important things you want to focus on. And you must determine that truth first. Data management. Make sure you structure that data. Make sure you can trust that data before you derive meaning out of anything you do in data science. I'm obviously on the truth team. Hence, I'm meeting my truth hat here. I say often it's not chicken or egg. It is egg and omelet. Truth first. And today I'm going to talk about what your data is about. You must determine the truth about what your data is about. Now, what do I mean by that? If you're in the machine learning,
I believe we just lost all of Scott Taylor, which is interesting. I'm pretty sure he'll come back. And in the meantime, I think we can actually do the giveaway, which we were going to save for the end of the session. I'm going to go ahead and add that to the screen now. So Scott, I see you backstage. As you get set back up, we're going to do a giveaway. Sometimes that happens when we use Wi-Fi or other technological issues. So I'm going to go ahead and do our first drawing. So hashtag truth. Everyone who has put this hashtag across LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or Twitch, or YouTube is going to be entered into this raffle. I'm going to go ahead and click draw right now. And who doesn't want to have a giveaway in the middle of somebody's talk? I wouldn't mind. All right. The lucky winner of Scott Taylor's book is Katie Hossman. Congratulations, Katie. We're going to follow up with you after the session. All right, I'm going to remove my screen. And Scott, you are back in business here.
Oh my goodness. I am so sorry, everybody. You know, it happens. Where are we? Back again? Do I get my slides back again? What a way to kick it off for you, Kate. Really, you're supposed to depend on me. I'm supposed to get it going. Where are my slides? Should I talk without my slides?
No, go for it. I got your slides.
No rush. We got plenty of time.
There we go. They were on the bottom.
There we go. Where were we? We were talking about what your data is about. All right, let's just calm down a little bit here. We all understand it. If you're in the machine learning space, you're looking at feature engineering. Those features are about instances, okay? Attributes are about entities. Columns are about the rows. If you've got silos, you got to think about a foundation. If you want to cut across your verticals, you've got to go horizontal. See the pattern there? Anybody could do this. Columns are easy, rows are hard. We're thinking about those entities, those rows, those instances. That's what all your work is about. Now, your data science time, often looked at 80% munging and wrangling, and according to some recent study, 20% complaining about munging and wrangling. This source is either Kurt Bourne or John Thompson. I forget who said it. Take a screenshot so they know I'm giving them proper accreditation, will you? But we've got to think about how do we reduce that? How do you reduce that 80%? In that 80%, munging, wrangling, defining, fixing, smoothing. I talked to a CDO the other day who hates this idea of data scientists smoothing out all the outliers and harmonization and all the rest of it that actually has real value in there. You'd rather be doing actual data science work, wouldn't you? Propensity, churn, predictions, intent, all the other cool stuff you do. That's what you want to make sure you do. Structured data, the way to do it is structured data works harder than unstructured data. Don't let anybody tell you any different, okay? I've heard a lot of talk about how important big data is, unstructured data. There's so much insight in it. How do you capture the insight in that unstructured data? What is that unstructured data about? tags, contextual tags, things like that people put on it to give it structure. The nouns of your business, customers, vendors, partners, prospects, products, services, offerings, the things you make, the people you sell to and buy from and partner with. That's what your data work is about. So in the last moments here, I'm going to talk about the 4 C's of master data: entity, ontology, business glossaries, enterprise nouns, whatever you want to call it, to codify, to structure, to standardize things that are important to your business. Really simple way to think about it. You may not want to do a data model off of this, but it's a way to think about what your data is about and those important structural elements you must have to do the work you want to do. These 4 C's: code, company, category, and country. First, you need a code. You need a unique identifier. Every record's got a code, a tax ID if it's a customer, or an LEI, or a DUNS number, or an ad ID, or a UPC, or a VAT, or a QSIP, or an OpenFiggy, whatever the entity type is, it's got a unique identifier. I have a code, therefore I am, and I exist in a database. You need a company or some form of parent-child relationship, a hierarchy, ship to, build to, plan to, sell to. It might be product, variant, brand, master brand, whatever we're talking about has that hierarchical structure. You need a category, so you know what kind of thing it is. Category drives all kinds of analysis and data science work, right? Market share, penetration. We're good with this kind of company. We've got to find more of this kind of company. Category is critically important. That taxonomy there organizes your data in these categorizations that your business understands. Now, every business has some wacky stuff in category. I've seen it all. Let me tell you, my favorite one, I'm sure you all have it, other. Or do you have another one? Other. I asked somebody, why do you have other? They said, because it's so hard for our salespeople to spell miscellaneous. Best one I saw was DK. We asked them what that meant. They said, don't know. Different kind of other. And then just because they all start with C, you need country or some form of geography. You got to know where it is, right? Market definitions, media market, sales market, measurement market. Could be city, state, province, region, whatever those geographical terms are that your business understands. Now, code answers things like, does something exist? All right? That's the core to ontologies. Does it exist? You can't do customer churn or propensity or intent unless you know something exists. This is it. This is the existential moment for data. If something exists in your system, is it authenticated? Is that identity okay? Counts of things. How many reports do you have? How many questions do you have there? Start with, how many of this do we have? Company, who owns it, you want to have that full relationship. You want to know what kind it is with category, segmentation, and market share. And you want to know where it is, the markets, the physical location. So what we're talking about here really is identity, hierarchy, taxonomy, and geography. Now, let me give you an example. Here's a Diet Coke, right? Simple product. It exists. Got a UPC. A lot of people in the business call it UPC code. The C stands for code, but it's got that unique identifier. Rolls up to the Coca-Cola company, is part of the carbonated beverage category, probably low calorie or diet subcategory in there. Really important way to structure the information about that. So whenever you bring a Diet Coke to any supermarket, you bring it across the front cash register and it goes beep, that little beep means that all that data is in all that systems. But the geography is important because in the US, it's Diet Coke, but in the EU, it's Coke Light. So those nuances in your business, you have to understand before you do too much work. Do you have the truth about that structure? So you might call it something else. And that's the point here. What do you call it in your business? Learn that language. It could be entity, owner, sector, location. It could be outlet, banner, channel, region. It could be product, brand, segment, market. It could be ingredient, supplier, variety, source. But it's a thing. It's a parent. It's a type, it's a place. Then you know where it is, what it is, who it is, and that it's unique. And think of all the data problems go away when you know that. What it is, where it is, who it is, and that it's unique. I'm going to take a Zen moment here and think about all those data problems you have going away. Just have these 4 C's. Anyway, let's put this in play in the last few moments here. Here's an example. Here's a geography. Call it Houston, call it EMEA, call it Asia Pac, call it Chicago, whatever you want to call it. There are things in that geography. There are different types of things that belong to different owners and companies. Those owners are, some of them are in the geography and some of them are outside of the geography. And they put their things wherever they want to, no matter how you define your markets. And you need to know what geographies they are in. So with this, what does this answer? Almost everything. Think about how much reporting is driven by this simple structure. We're doing something in yellow. How many things are in there? What type and who owns them? I'm working with green. Who do they compete with? I'm blue. What markets am I in and where are my competitors? Identity, hierarchy, taxonomy, geography, code, company, category, country, the basic atomic level of what your data is about. What happens at these levels? Almost everything. Integration, reporting, operations, communications, transaction. What doesn't happen at these levels? And you think about it, your business thinks about it this way. Is something unique? If you have customer churn and you're using duplicate records, then you got a problem, don't you? Who owns it? I've got a total commercial relationship I've got to deal with. What kind of thing is it? We're doing targeting and segmentation. Where is it? We've got to deploy resources. Identifiers, hierarchies, taxonomies, and geographies. The basic core structure for everything you do. The language of your business is the structure of your data. They should replicate each other. The way your business talks should be reflected in the data. When you go to talk to business leaders, know that language. Know what you call entities, hierarchies, taxonomies, and geographies. So some thoughts for your data journey is wrapping it up here. Speak the language of your business. Most of you, the time, most of your value from most of your data comes from growing your business, improving your business, and protecting your business. Structured data works harder than unstructured data. Let's stamp out munging and wrangling in our lifetime, shall we? You don't want to spend 80% of your time doing something that actually isn't your job. Then what are you? I don't know another role that brags about how 80% of their time is spent doing something that isn't what they should be doing. I know we can't get rid of all of it, but go make a friend in the data management, data governance side. Start with the truth. Go find those people. They're there. They can handle the truth for your organization. So I want to thank you. Thank you, Kate. Sorry about the technical glitch there, but we just kept going. We're troopers for sure. And follow me. Thanks for listening. Thank all you out there in DATAcated land. If you want to pick up my book and you didn't win, go to technicspub.com. Use Data Whisper as the code. You'll save 20%. Follow me on LinkedIn. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Find everything I do at Metadata Consulting. And I'll wrap it up right now. Every data journey begins with determining the truth. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Am I still on?
Yes, you're still on. I love it. Actually, I think that little glitch was it was a fun moment, and people know that this is live. A lot of times conferences put things out that they say you're live but are not really live. Guys, you know this is live because who would plan for something like that?
This is not asynchronous. No, we're live here. We're live, ladies and gentlemen, live TV.
As Susan says, LinkedIn just couldn't handle the truth, so they had to kick you out. And David's asking if you're working out of Facebook. I know we had a lot of issues yesterday, but so yeah, some people thought it was their Wi-Fi again. But no, guys, this was some kind of interesting glitch. Now, Scott, I have a question for you. First, we already did the giveaway, so I'm going to follow up with Katie. Yes, congratulations to Katie.
Congratulations, Katie, telling your data story. Data storytelling for data management. 99% buzzword free. That's the way you want to talk.
Yes. So the question I had for you, you mentioned the chicken or the egg, and then you mentioned something about an omelet. So can you, I can't find that question, but somebody wanted clarification on that.
Clarification on my recipe. So when I talk about truth and meaning, truth is determining the truth, which through data management, and meaning is deriving meaning from data through business intelligence. It goes in that order. It's not chicken or egg. It is egg and omelet. You need the truth first before you can create meaning. So always find that truth.
All right.
That was the omelet explanation.
Thank you. And then I also loved your other. I'm definitely guilty of having a folder that would have other or an other category for miscellaneous. So definitely very relevant.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, Scott, I want to thank you so much for your time here today. I'm going to introduce our next speaker. So we'll see you online. Guys, follow Scott Taylor, The Data Whisperer, get his book. And thank you again, Scott.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate. What a great day.
I'll remove him. All right, I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen one more time so we can go ahead and introduce our very next speaker. All right, here we go. I think you can all see that. This is Catalina Herrera, and she's going to talk to us about the power of collaboration within the data science pipeline. She has a passion for data and analytics. Catalina has spent her entire career helping her industry push beyond digitalization to business transformation. She's held both educational and technical positions, worked with state-of-the-art technology solutions across multiple industry verticals, and served as a data scientist and software as a service specialist. Today, she works with Fortune 100 companies and global technology leaders on digital transformation initiatives. In 2020, her influence in the AI community in Texas resulted in her being recognized as one of the top 30 women in AI advancement. All right, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring up Catalina. Hello, hello. Welcome to the DATAcated Expo.
Hello, hello, and thank you, Kate. How are you today?
Excellent, excellent. Having fun already. It's only 20 minutes into the event and already having a blast. So
it has been fun, yeah. And I actually was listening to Scott of phenomenal highlights there that I'm actually going to refer to during my next 10 minutes as well.
Okay, great. So I'm going to let you go ahead and take it away. I'm going to hop off the stage. I'll join you in 10 minutes. And guys, if you have any questions for Catalina, please put them into the chat. And also feel free to just share this as well so other people can see it. All right, Catalina, I will see you in 10 minutes.
Super, Kate. Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, super. So the power of collaboration within the data science pipeline. And I think this is a phenomenal follow to Scott when he mentioned, well, everything has to start with the truth. I can't not agree more. But the truth actually is not so easy to align when you have such a diverse group working behind the scenes, these data science pipelines, right? So you knew I was going to show this picture, Kate. So the picture is my analogy, right? I see silos as these horse blinders, and the horse blinders here are going to represent silos, not only data silos that are super, super important to highlight, but also the team silos. And why not the skill silos? So we mentioned we are all, and I truly believe this, especially for this community. I mean, we know the power of data, right? And we already know that we want to maximize the insights that we get out of this data. And we also know that there is a lot of work to maximize the insights of this data, right? So communicating and being able to interact is going to be key. But at the same time, what is the data science pipeline again? And how come we are creating all of these products as an outcomes, but what is happening behind the scenes and why collaboration is so important and so powerful, right? So if we think about how we are applying all these data extractions, right? At the end, what we are trying to do is to maximize the outcome for our business. As Scott mentioned again, we are trying to maximize the insights into this data. And there is another very truth besides that, which is the fact that if you don't have the right data as an input to your system, you're not going to have the right output to your system, right? Garbage in, garbage out. So when we talk about silos, we're not thinking only exclusively about the silo on that data source, but also, hey, who is the expert that knows about this? How I am ensuring that I am reading this data the proper way? How I am creating these new features to actually improve a machine learning model that is going to be used to consume and to ask questions to this data. If we don't talk to each other, if we don't communicate, if we don't ensure that this thing is doing what we think it's doing, right? And when I think this thing, it's the machine learning algorithm, the data science techniques that you have behind the scenes, producing all of these outcomes, having all these people asking questions to this data, right? We are training algorithms, we are processing all of this information, and we are creating outcomes. So extremely, extremely important to collaborate and to talk to each other because things can definitely go wrong. These are systems. These are a series of sequences. This is a step after a step on consuming this data. But data is data. And at the end, data itself can be biased. because at the end, we are transforming our own digital issues daily, how we interact, how we talk, how we visualize field, how we process our communication skills with NLP. I mean, we are trying to represent the way that we do all of the things as humans, right? Sensor reading, interactions, NLP, and we are processing all that data to create all of these outcomes, right? So garbage in, garbage out, and to ensure we don't have that misinformation or the garbage out as a produced outcome after processing all of this data, we talk to each other and we ensure that we can collaborate. So I'm actually going to be playing a hack game here, and we're going to play different roles, and we're going to think about a big project. So first of all, the data science project, so the biggest projects that are leveraging all this data, right? The bigger the project, the more the need for us to communicate, because you are going to be bringing experts. You are going to be bringing people that knows a lot about a specific thing, right? So in this case, you have people that knows about weather conditions, that knows about ocean mechanical movements, the optimization of the use of wind turbines or solar, or everything as part of a data science pipeline where collaboration needs to happen, right? So let's think about an example. This is going to be a project that, by the way, if you didn't know, a plastic can take over, I think, 1,000 years to biodegrade, and only a small fraction of what we produce actually is being recycled. So this is a very good project for many reasons, but right now I'm going to focus on the technology aspect of it. So what you are seeing is a group of people working together on a data science pipeline, right? So the first hat that I'm going to wear is going to be like the drones owners, right? We are actually flying these drones over the ocean and creating pictures and video that needs to be processed with image recognition, right? So the first question that I'm asking the data is this a piece of plastic that is floating in the ocean, right? So I need to know that. Then I need to start saying, okay, I need to transform the waves and the wind and the sunlight into a mechanical move, right? So I need to identify where this mechanical arm is going to move so we can maximize the use of resources, right? We are making this arm move, but we are reading the data from the wind speed and direction. We are actually taking the data for the zonal panel. We are combining those two models, and we are actually calculating where to move next to maximize the amount of plastic that this arm is collecting, right? So behind the scenes, what do you have? Back to the power of collaboration, right? You have all of these data sources and data silos all over. So one is going to be your drone pictures and images. Then you're going to have the waves and the current and the wind speed analysis. Then you're going to have a wind direction analysis. So all of this is data. How do you make sense of it? So together, we can actually have an outcome that looks like this. What is behind the scenes? This kind of data pipelines, and why collaboration is so important. So number one, we all don't have the same set of skills, but we still need to ask questions to this data. So the one thing that we know is that every data science pipeline is going to have multiple stages, right? You're going to connect to those data sources, and you're going to clean that data in the best possible way, and you are going to follow Scott's forces idea, which is phenomenal, and extract what you need from that data to speak the business value, which is also key on this success when you are implementing a data science pipeline, right? But then you are going to talk to a different set of people. Like you may have data engineers that are connecting to all of these data sources and ensuring that what you are doing is cleaning the data and extracting the best of the best. But then you are ready to pass the ball. So you're going to change your hat and you're going to pass the ball to somebody else within your organization that brings a different set of skills. Why not a Python programmer or an R programmer or an SQL programmer or whatever that is creating these recipes and these artifacts that you can reuse as this community that is collaborating into this data science pipeline to maximize what you extract out of it. So when you pass the ball, now I have a data scientist here that is receiving that ball, right? So we are collaborating. And I may not speak Python, I may not speak R, but I am still need to ask questions to this data, and I am still processing this information, and I am still generating different machine learning algorithms, experimenting within the data science that I can actually apply to this. I can actually analyze, is this model behaving okay? Is this an output that I can actually compare? Do I understand what this model is doing? So I can compare multiple algorithms. I can actually review the behind the scenes of the algorithm, because I do care about transparent process, because I do care about responsible AI, because I do care about what happened to this data to get where it is, so I can actually use it as part of this machine learning algorithm and as part of this data science pipeline, right? So we all have to be able to collaborate, to ask questions to each other, to verify that what we are doing is indeed what we think we're doing, to ensure that that model is actually producing an outcome that we believe is aligned with expectations, number one. And that's where the SMEs come into place, right? So again, I am changing hats. Now I'm going to be a business user that is asking questions about this data, that is using that model outcome to produce something else, that is actually comparing the metrics between the model and is assuring that this model is actually doing what I think it's doing. So how do we push this to the last level? And we're going to talk about this multiple times during these 2 days, and you're going to have different people providing different insights into it. But at the end, you are trying to maximize what you do with your data, but also in a way that is accountable, right? It's a transparent, responsible AI, and is creating all of these artifacts that are reusable for a community that may or not speak the same language from the programming perspective, right? So you still can bring your Jupyter notebooks and your EDS or everything else that you know how to do, but that doesn't mean that what you are producing can be part of a bigger data science pipeline where your entire team is collaborating and creating these assets that can be reusable, so you can actually scale into digital transformation, and you can actually reuse a lot of these things. Don't start from zero, don't start from scratch, so you can actually start this catalyst for innovation, right? Empower your users, provide them with access to what they need to ensure that these data cycles are actually behaving the way that you think they are. How is your model shifting? Do you need to retrain your model because you have new data now that was not part of that training before? Do you need to set some kind of guardrails so you know that the model is behaving the way that you think it is? Do you need to notify somebody if the model drifts, or if you have a KPI that is, or a metric or a flag that is telling you, hey, something is not as expected? But the fact that you are the human as part of that data science workflow becomes extremely important. And being part of that workflow means communication with your peers, means let's ensure that you understand what your data engineers are doing. Let's ensure that you understand what your data scientists are doing. Let's ensure that we are all maximizing the insights into this data in the best possible way, understanding that there are different ways to accomplish the same results. But at the end, what we want to do is to maximize those insights and make a more agile team that can actually reuse a lot of these artifacts and work in a one collaborative canvas that end-to-end allows us to maximize the insights into this data and extrapolate the power of collaboration, right? So I'm going to stop right there, Kate. I think I had a couple of extra minutes. I'm sorry about that, but let me know if you have any questions.
Hello, Catalina. Thank you so much for that great presentation. Yes, we do have questions. I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. So there was a really interesting question here from Irving. And the question is, what are some of the barriers that impact collaboration and data transparency?
Yeah, and the brutal answer to that is we have a very crowded ecosystem. So you think about the infrastructure that is behind the scenes that is actually supporting all of these decisions. You are going to have, first of all, a mix of tools that are not necessarily properly integrated. And at the same time, you're going to have a mix of skills of people using those tools, right? So one of the barriers of being able to collaborate is not speaking the same language, which you don't really need to, but just understanding that we are all trying to accomplish the same thing is stage number one. And then identifying who owns what as part of that pipeline, but identifying that you are part of a pipeline. You are not a silo. I'm gonna go back to my picture. Let's be the happy donkey on the right? Let's be the happy donkey. Let's not have the blinders. Let's ensure that the use case is properly represented with the data and the data variables, but also let's ensure that everybody who needs to be part of this is part of it. And it doesn't matter if they are Python or not Python coders, right? Yeah. That's kind of the goal. Yeah.
This is my favorite picture, by the way, Catalina. You know that. I think it paints such a good visual. A lot of great comments, thanking you for the presentation. A lot of people appreciated the real world analogy that people can actually relate to. We had a good question here from Raymond, and he's saying, things always change in a company and data. So who manages the data science pipeline and ensures that the collaborations are intact?
Yeah, and that's why I will say you need to think about a future-proof solution. Mm-hmm. And that is where tool that is capable of orchestrating the whole thing regardless of that infrastructure is key. So it has to be something that connects your people, your infrastructure, and your processes, but with responsible AI, transparent AI, ownership AI, but at the same time, like the fact that you can collaborate. So the infrastructure is always going to change, and it's going to keep changing. Companies are going to keep acquiring other companies. They're going to keep buying BI solutions here and there. They're going to keep trying to enable this analyst group and these engineers and this. But at the end, it is one ecosystem. And the way that you connect those personas with that infrastructure and those processes is the key to success, right? Based on my experience and what I have seen. And that I've been growing within this business for over 15 years now. And I have seen these analysts growing into a more mature role. I mean, they're now data scientists and they're now asking deeper questions because we have been processing the data for a decade. So now we are like, okay, let's maximize what we can do with this thing. Let's ensure that we are asking the right people. So keep that human in the loop.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Catalina, I think this is all the time we have for today. You do have several other questions that are coming in. If you have time to maybe go on LinkedIn and respond to them. This is just last comment I'll read for Rudy. This is exactly what she needed to hear today. So he needed to hear today, sorry. So thank you again for your time. I'd appreciate if everyone could give you a virtual round of applause. You guys, emojis, share the session. Catalina, I will see you online. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Kate. Have a good day.
All right. Awesome. We're going to keep this data party moving, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up and introduce our very next speaker. His name is George Fieriken, and today he's going to talk to us about the 3 metadata tools for data scientists. There's the business glossary, the data dictionary, and the data catalog. George is a passionate about putting the lights on data. He's ranked among the top 5 global thought leaders and influencers on big data, digital disruption, and top 15 on innovation. George has been a data professional for more than 10 years, and one of George's passions is to create informative, practical, and engaging educational content to share with individuals such as yourself. He helps organizations get more visibility on social media. George is the proud founder of lightsondata.com and its YouTube channel. He's also a co-host of the Lights on Data show. Today, he is generously giving away one of his award-winning business glossary courses today. So if you'd like to participate in the giveaway, again, we're going to do a raffle. So all you have to do is put hashtag glossary to enter the raffle. I'm going to go ahead and show you what's the word that you need to use in order to participate. So I'm going to share my screen quickly here. All right. So if you want to participate to win one of George Fieriken's courses from Lights on Data, just type in hashtag glossary into any of the platforms you're using to join us today. I see the entries have already started coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and remove my screen, and I'm going to go ahead and bring George Fieriken up on our virtual stage here. Hello, George.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. I know you've spoken at other DATAcated conferences and expos, so I really appreciate your coming back to speak to the audience again.
Thank you for having me.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump off the virtual stage and let you take it.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the Business Glossary, Data Dictionary, Data Catalog, the 3 metadata tools that every company should own. But I'm going to start by talking to you about the sandwich. Yes, you heard me right. The sandwich. You can have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it can be delicious. I think we all know what a sandwich is. I think that we can all identify a sandwich when we see one. Or can we? Which begs the next question. Which one of the following 3 food items you think maybe it's not a sandwich? The hot dog, do you think that's a sandwich or not? The grilled cheese sandwich or the burrito? Or either of these combinations? Let me know in the comments. Feel free to tag my name, as I would love to see your answers after I finish my talk. So let me know. I'll come back to this at the end of the presentation too. But here's why I'm asking. Let's say you're a data analyst, you're a data scientist, or any data professional that works on a project that involves data on sandwiches. Maybe your company wants to start selling a new sandwich on the market and wants to see if it should. Or you want to develop a new marketing campaign that targets sandwich foodies. Or you were asked to just develop a report that showcases your company's revenue from sandwich sales against, the market average. Right? So you have this project. Well, and which data do you really include? Because you have a bunch of data sets available on hot dogs, burritos, and all types of sandwiches. Do you include data on grilled cheese sandwiches or not? Well, here's the thing. It really depends on your company's definition of sandwich. And I'll give you an example. This one definition is from the FDA. And they're saying that a sandwich is a meat or poultry filling between 2 slices of bread, a bun, or a biscuit. You know what this means? It means that the grilled cheese sandwich is not a sandwich, at least according to the FDA. And as a fun fact, it's really because the USDA really covers the labels of meat, poultry, and egg products, and the FDA kind of everything else. But the thing is, if you worked for them and you included data on grilled cheese sandwiches, you would end up with invalid results. But here's my point. Here's why I'm being cheeky with this example. Because we all come with these assumptions based on our life and work experience, and we bring them into the workplace without always validating them. Maybe we're less likely to make wrong assumptions on, what a sandwich is. Maybe that's obvious. But there are plenty of business terms out there that seem obvious what their meaning is, only to find out that's not the case, at least not, within the context that we'd be working with that business term, that data. So for example, the customer, ask 2 different people in your company how they define what a customer is, and you probably get 3 different answers, if not more. And these are some examples of those definitions. And making assumptions on meanings of business terms such as customer and sale conversion rate, credit, patient, GPA, you name it, is what creates certain challenges in the workplace. So to avoid these challenges, we need to have this trusted place where business metadata is being recorded in your organization. This trusted place that we can refer to because we know it's information that's been approved, it's curated, it's maintained. So we can see what terms such as sandwich actually means. So then we know what data to use. But we need more business metadata than just the definition. We need to see if there are, synonyms, abbreviations. What is the data steward that we can talk to? And find out more information about the data related to this term. Who's the business owner? What's the definition source, usage, classification, if there are any policies tied to it, and so much more. And we can find all of this business metadata in a business glossary. And by the way, these are really just a handful of the business metadata that we can record in a business glossary. I mean, I've seen companies having anywhere between 20 to 50 to 100 attributes being recorded for a single term. So that's the business metadata. What about the other side? What about the technical metadata? Well, let's say we now know what a sandwich is and what data sets we should include in our project. So you're looking at a data set similar to this one, which this is actually a sample from a data set collected from a quick serve sandwich chain. But we should understand what we're looking at here. We should understand what all of these different columns mean. What type of data do they contain? What are some of the specifications, default values, types of keys, and so on? By the way, this is very, very useful if you need to do any ETLs or any ELTs, which is a topic that Joe Rees will cover later on today, by the way. So make sure you're going to tune in for that too. But it's also helpful for you to gauge if the way data were recorded fits the requirements of your project or not. It's a good way to understand if you need to do any data wrangling, any data munging. Like Scott Taylor mentioned, it's like 80% of what a data scientist does. So all of this technical metadata we can find in a data dictionary. So to recap, we have the business metadata and the technical metadata. The business metadata is recorded in the business glossary, and we find the technical metadata in a data dictionary, which again gives you the specifications about the fields in a data store, in a database, really. So the business glossary, what we need to remember is that it's business owned, as it holds your business verbiage. It's this curated place where we can find definitions, such as what a sandwich is, from your organization's point of view, at least. And we usually have one business glossary for the entire organization. Like it's enterprise-wide. Now, the data dictionary, on the other hand, provides a very application, technology-centric view of the data, provides the description of a data element and its metadata. You can have many data dictionaries in your organization, usually one for each application or database. Though that being said, the business glossary and the data dictionary, they can be connected and reference each other. And what about the data catalog? I haven't talked about that yet. The best way to explain it is to first look at Amazon. Now, Amazon carries millions of different products, and yet as consumers, we can find almost anything fairly quickly, right? I just looked for a book on grilled cheese sandwich recipes, and this was one of the items that I found. And beyond Amazon's advanced search capabilities, they also give detailed information on each product, right? We have the description, related information, seller's information, shipping times. In this case, if it's a soft cover or hard cover, how many pages it has, how much it weighs, dimensions, and of course, customer reviews. Now, data catalogs work in the same way for your databases, and they really can be used for any data stores. The purpose of the data catalog is to organize the thousands or millions of an organization's data set to help users search and find specific data and understand its metadata and then download it or request access to it. Let me give you an example. I was looking for data sets on sandwiches, of course, from data.gov, which is this data catalog for open data from the US government. This is a data set on dietary intakes from a national survey. And yes, it does contain data on sandwich consumption. Now, similar to Amazon, we have, a description of our product, in this case, this data set, privacy policy, and of course, we can download the data set. But there's also a bunch of other helpful metadata, such as, who's the owner, who's the data steward that we can contact for more information. There's a link to the data dictionary. And sometimes we can even have reviews from other people that use this data set. Sometimes we could even see the data quality score associated with that data set, so we can see how how high or low its quality is. So it's really a great tool to have. And as you can see, when we're working with data in whichever capacity, we can really benefit from these three tools: the business glossary for your business verbiage, the data dictionary that describes your data elements, and the data catalog to help you find the data that you need to gauge its usefulness and request the right to use it. And as I mentioned before, the business glossary, data dictionary, they reference each other and they both surface their information within the data catalog. Now, back to my initial question, which one of these is not a sandwich? Maybe you've guessed it. It really depends on your definition. But as a fun fact, in New York, the burrito is considered a sandwich. See, they have different taxes for sandwiches, and for whatever reason, they are taxing the burrito the same as they would tax a sandwich. Outside of the New York state, from my understanding, it's not considered a sandwich, but it is in New York. So if you're ordering a sandwich in New York and you're getting a burrito, now you know why. So thank you so much for having me, and please feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. Check out lightsondata.com, where I post a lot of content on data management topics, videos, and of course, online courses. Thank you so much.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, George. We do have plenty of questions for you. First of all, thank you for speaking about all of these important concepts. I think mostly I learned a lot about sandwiches today as well. So thank you. We have a lot of debates going on in the chat, whether, burritos or sandwiches or not, or hot dogs. I personally, I think a grilled cheese sandwich should be considered a sandwich. It's in the
Right, it has the
name.
sandwich in the name, yeah.
It's in the name, George. But anyways, we'll move forward. We saw the FDA definition. I think we'll do one question, then we'll do a giveaway, and then we'll do the second question. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Erica. She is asking, what is the process for creating a business glossary? Do tools exist as opposed to manual creation?
Absolutely, yeah. Sometimes they're part of data governance package tools, but you can just start with an Excel spreadsheet. I mean, you don't need to purchase a tool just to stop you. You can start gathering that information somewhere, and you learn a lot along the way and what the processes should be. And it's really more important to have useful, great content in there that's curated, that's well as a good standard, than just having a tool to output everything. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. All right. As we do the giveaway, I'll give folks another minute. I think it'll be helpful for you to maybe tell people a little bit about the course that you have on Lights on Data.
Yeah. So with the Business Glossary course, really, it tells you how you can put one together following best practices and what those best practices are. So it's really how to create great terms, great definitions. How do you ensure that adoption organization-wide? How do you get sponsorship for it? How do you, create a business case for it? Comes with a bunch of templates as well, just to make your life easier. Goes through the whole change management and how you should deploy it, regardless of the tool that you're going to use. So a lot of goodies there for sure.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to go ahead and draw our raffle here. I'd like to write down the winners. So I'm going to say congratulations to our lucky winner, Ratnesh. Congratulations. I love how it always
congratulations.
Giving people hope that they've won, and then it kind of just flips to the next one. All right. I love that. Thank you so much for providing this giveaway from Lights on Data. We're going to follow up with you, Ratnesh, after the show and make sure that you get that course. For now, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the second question. But first, George, thank you for the shirt. So Data is Not Scary. George also puts out great T-shirts from his Lights on Data merch.
And likewise, by the way.
Oh, there.
We were kind of wearing the very similar outfit.
Yes, we were wearing the same thing, basically. It was not coordinated, but there we go. So we have good style. The next question here is from Christian, and the question is how to start building and maintaining an updated metadata, business/technical.
Wow, that's a very loaded question. I mean, you can start anywhere. If you start with the technical metadata, again, tools can help to ingest data from any data store. And if you have a dedicated tool and like a data dictionary or data catalog, it really eases up that data conversion for you, and it really creates that technical metadata. Off the bat, of course, you can go in and update it as you wish. For the business metadata, you need to start with those conversations. And a lot of this information lives in people's heads, but a lot can live in like on the internet, documentation. There's so many sources that you can go to where this is readily available. The problem is it's different versions of that business metadata. So you need to have a lot of meetings to really reconcile it all and make sure that everybody comes into agreement with what that truth should be in the end.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you for that. We did have one last question for you, George. I mean, there are a lot that came in, but this one I really have to ask from Bob. Hamburger. Is a hamburger a burger if it has no bun?
Oh, interesting. Like maybe like a lettuce wrap.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think, Bob? I think it's a hamburger for sure, right? It has the ham in there. So, and the burger, I don't know what the burger means.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think it's no longer a sandwich. At least we know that based on the definition of a sandwich.
Right.
All right. So I think we're going to leave off there. Guys, round of applause, please, for George. If you enjoyed the presentation, I see one of our backstage speakers is actually clapping backstage, which we can't hear you, but I'm going to bring him up soon. But George, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. I will see you online. I'm going to go ahead and bring up and introduce our very next speaker here. All right. We're going to hear from, you might know him from LinkedIn. He posts quite a bit of content out there, Mr. Avery Smith. He's going to talk about how data visualization is more than a chart. Now, Avery is obsessed with data. He's the founder of an analytics firm, Snow Data Science, and an online data project camp called Data Career Jumpstart. He worked previously as a data scientist for an oil giant, ExxonMobil, and a biotech startup called VaporSense. I'm going to go ahead and bring up Avery up on our virtual stage here. Hello, Avery. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, first, I should let people know that you didn't know you were going to speak at the DATAcated Expo until about 3 hours ago when you just opened up your eyes. So thank you for jumping in sort of last minute here.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. It's fun to kind of play it last minute. So hopefully my presentation's good enough for the spontaneity, but just know if it's not, I only had like 2 hours. So
well, I really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and jump off the virtual stage and let you take it away.
Sweet. Sounds good. So hello, everyone. My name's Avery Smith. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about data visualization more than a chart. I'm going to do this kind of with two personalities. There's cool Avery, and then there's nerdy Avery right here. Okay. These are two different personalities in two different ways to approach things. So have patience with me when nerdy Avery is on stage because it's kind of a bit. So all right, here we go. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about Blockbuster and the metrics of Blockbuster. So it started in 1986. It grew to a lot of stores and by like 6,000 stores in 2005. And then by 2015, there was only 25 stores left. Okay. So this is boring Avery. Okay. That's how you give a boring presentation. Okay. But if you have to talk about something, don't talk about it like this. Talk about it like this instead. Okay. And this is where data visualization can be more than a chart. So on this right-hand side of the screen, I have the rise and fall of Blockbuster. For those who don't know, Blockbuster was like a DVD, VHS, like video rental store in the United States. And anyone anyone remembers Blockbuster. If you're under the age of like 20, maybe you don't remember Blockbuster, but if you're older than me, you remember Blockbuster. All right. So this tells the story of the rise and fall of Blockbuster a lot more interesting than that last slide did. And what I want you guys to do is try to give presentations like this instead of the one that nerdy Avery gave. Always be cool, Avery. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. By the way, this is from V1 Analytics. So in 1987, we see some Blockbusters popping up. We have like 50, lots in Texas, lots in California, kind of some in the Midwest over here. And then by 1999, we're almost to 400 stores. You see them popping up all over the United States. You see them popping up where I'm at in Utah. You see them popping up where Kate's at in New York or New Jersey, I guess now. By 1990, we're up to 1,300 stores and rising. You can see the number of stores down here and the date right here. And we're almost to 2,000 stores. You can see there's a bunch over here, like in Dallas, a bunch over here in San Diego, a bunch over here, like I guess that's San Francisco. I don't know. I don't know my California geography that well. You see a bunch in Florida. We're almost to 2,500 stores, 2,600 stores. I was born in 1995. So June, that's my birthday right there. We have almost 3,000 Blockbuster stores. Okay. You can see them popping up. We don't see many in Montana. I don't know if David Langer's here, but not a ton in Montana, not a ton in Idaho, not a ton in Wyoming for Tom Ives. You see these growing. I see Gray still has their Blockbuster card. That's hilarious. We're in 1999, we're up to 4,000 stores. This is insane. Like, look at, if you just like pick one area, just pick this area and just watch it. There's a store. There's a store. There's a store, there's a store, there's a store. Like just in one city, there's just stores popping up like crazy. By 2001, we're at 5,300 stores. Once again, if you just like pick a spot, it just pops up. There's a store. This is about the peak in 2003. Okay, we're at 5,600 stores. What you're going to see is a huge decline. Okay, this is what's going to happen is we're at 5,700 stores, and this is when Netflix becomes a thing. They start sending DVDs to people. They start like, you know, doing their whole service, and you're going to see Blockbusters go down from here. Now we're at 5,000 in 2007. Just watch this number. It's going to keep plummeting. You're going to see them pop off the map. 2008. We're about to have the economic crisis, right? So watch these things. Just watch one area. Here's Houston, where I used to live. Pop one, pop one, pop one. They just keep falling off the map. And you can see we're almost down to half. We're at 3,300 right here. And you can just look over here. Just look at all these ones fall off the map. We're at 1,000. Netflix is at huge. It's just growing, killing Blockbuster. We're down to 1,800. In 2013, we're down to 500. Kind of sad, the fall of Blockbuster right here. And by 2014, we're already down to 38 stores. 2015, 24 stores. So do you see the difference between these two different ways that Cool Avery and Nerdy Avery presented? One told a story that you were engaged with, and the other one was a lot more boring and basic. It was just like reading slides, right? But now you can really see, oh, wow, there's only 2 stores left in 2018. It really gives you a feel for what actually happened to the story and allows you to understand what's going on. So you can either use slides or you can use data visualization to try to tell that story. So basically, I have another one, COVID in the US. I'm going to skip that one because of time, but I highly suggest watching this video called How the Virus Won. It's actually not a video. Definitely check that out afterwards. The last one I'll just show you guys is Ford stock. Okay, so you could. Oh, this is Nerdy Avery. Nerdy Avery could say, yeah, Ford's an American car company. Started around $11. It took a big dip, and it's been coming back. And people are excited about the electric truck, and it rose to $14 an hour. Or you could be Cool Avery. And you can look at this. This is from stockarts.com. I'm a huge fan of theirs, kind of a fanboy. And you might say, Avery, this doesn't look like data visualization. And that's because it is. Look at this, okay? It is actually a landscape, but the shape of the mountain, the jags here, are actually the stock price. So I think this is $14 over here. This is like $11. Here's the big dive it took, and then it's been slowly coming back. So these mountains are actually the stock price of Ford. And you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's pretty sweet. The trees down here, you'll also notice have shape to it. I think that's daily volume. So how many times the stock was traded. So the bigger the tree, the more times that day that stock was traded. And I also think this little landscape over here represents something. I don't actually remember what it represents. So that's where this kind of falls short, is you have to actually know what it represents. But my point is, if you have to do this or this, always choose the second one. Data stories are fun. They're memorable, and they get your point across a lot better than just doing a blank PowerPoint slide. So that's basically my talk. Data viz is for humans to digest information. We as humans use our eyes to digest. It's super important. So like imagine trying to drive without being able to see. That's the same thing. Imagine trying to drive your business or your job without being able to see. And we use data viz to see what's going on. So if you want to get started with data viz, these are my best resources on the left-hand side. You can take a little screenshot. You guys can check some of these out. You can try making your own. I really like Flourish. Or of course, you can check out Kate's data dashboard in the DATAcated Academy that will help you learn, data storytelling, or one of these data to dashboard courses. I teach the Python and R one. And you can always, I love to post about data visualization. So you can always check out some of my stuff, follow me on LinkedIn. And if you're interested in having a data career, I also have the Data Career Podcast or Data Career Jumpstart, which we can talk about offline. But I just hope you guys take away from this. Don't be Nerdy Avery, okay? Don't be Nerdy Avery, be Cool Avery, and use data visualization to tell a story instead of telling a slide. So I look forward to seeing your guys' new data visualizations and tag me when you make them. Okay, I want to see them.
I absolutely love your presentation, Avery. Thank you. I sort of didn't want it to end. I'm like, oh, wow, we're at time already. And I know you didn't really have time to prepare, but it seemed like you were extremely prepared. So thank you so much we had a comment here that I definitely resonate with, and it says, no one explained the importance of data visualization like this. This is amazing. I think everyone really loved the approach. We have people saying that nerdy and cool would make him me. Oh, okay.
You can be both, I guess. Both is okay as well. Just don't be boring. Be exciting. That's what I should have said. Sorry.
Yes, exactly. And I think this was really exciting for us to see the differences between kind of the boring side of data visualization and the exciting side of data visualization added with some data storytelling. You kind of sounded like a sports broadcaster. Once the glasses came off, you went to the mic and you're like, and then this happened. It's like when you pass the ball that way. So
I love it. I think it's so fun. It just tells, I mean, that's what sports is, right? Sports is basically a story. So
yes, absolutely. Yes. Everyone's just loving your presentation. A lot of things coming in. Quick question here from Tristan. Will you be sharing any of the slides? I think hit up Avery directly if you want actual slides. I usually share the recordings, which you'll be able to have after the session. But Avery, I had a question for you in case people are, trying to learn how to tell data stories and data visualization. And I do thank you for sharing some of my courses there from the Academy. Where do you think people can go to get some data to play with?
Oh, I love going to Kaggle.com and playing with the data sets there. So definitely check it out. Kaggle, Kaggle.com. And also something that people don't know, Google has a search engine, right, that you guys access every day. But Google also has a data set search engine. So it actually searches exclusively for data sets. That's also a good resource to go find data to play with.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. All right, I'm going to read one last comment here from Samad. He loved your talk, short, fun,
Thanks,
and well-delivered presentation. So thank you again. And guys, follow Avery Smith on LinkedIn. I know you're on Instagram, and Data Career Jumpstart. Do you want to just take a minute and tell people what Data Career Jumpstart is? I know it's sort of new, but it's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. So it's on my hat right here. We got Data Career Jumpstart. I call it a project camp. So you have boot camps, right? But this is a project camp where the best way to learn data is by doing projects. And the best way to market yourself as any sort of professional is having an online portfolio. It just makes you look very good. So Data Career Jumpstart is basically teaching you A to Z, all things data, data science, machine learning, SQL, data visualization, descriptive analytics. But we do so only by doing projects that we add to our portfolio. So no exercises, no homework, only projects. Learn as you go. It's been a lot of fun. We just started, I guess, a month and a half. It's been a lot of fun so far. So if you're interested and you want to learn data science, send me a DM and we can talk more about it offline.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Avery. I will see you
Kate.
online. All right, guys, please give Avery a round of applause virtually from wherever you're joining. Just hit the like buttons, and we're going to go ahead and bring up our next speaker here. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Shilpi Agarwal, and she's going to talk about the ethical considerations in data collections. Now, Shilpi is a data philanthropist, adjunct faculty at Stanford, MIT 100K launch mentor, and founder of Data Ethics for All, a community that is creating new nonlinear STEM pathways for youth and pledges to help 5 million economically disadvantaged students in the next 5 years with leadership opportunities, free STEM tutoring, mentoring, career guidance, technical career education, and essay reviews for college applications, all at no cost. Data Ethics for All is celebrating ethics first-minded leaders, products, and companies in an AI Diet World Champions career fair and solutions hack, where DIET stands for Data, Diversity, Inclusion, Impact, Ethics, Equity, Teams, and Technology in AI, and invites you to join them in building a better AI world together. I'm going to go ahead and bring Shilpi up on our stage here. Hello, Shilpi. You are on mute, but welcome to the DATAcated show. Really pleasure to have you here.
Hi, Kate. Excited to be here. Hey, everyone.
Hello. All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump off the virtual stage. Really happy to have you here, and I'm going to share your slides once I jump off.
Sounds good. Hey, so I want to quickly say hello and thank you to Avery. And Avery, whether we are cool or whether we are nerdy, I think the bottom line is that I love both of your avatars, and be authentic is my takeaway from this. No matter whether you're nerdy or cool, be authentic. And I just saw a movie with my daughter yesterday called The Duff. I don't know if you have seen it. I resonate with Duff. It's the designated ugly fat friend. So I think each of us is somebody's Duffs, and we take it with pride. That's okay. That's who we are. And so there will always be somebody who is more beautiful or, more nerdy, but that's okay. We own it. So, all right. So transparency and trust are the foundations of what I'm going to talk about today. And it's about ethical considerations in data collection. Who here loves data? Guilty as charged. The fact that we are here, I'm speaking at a data conference and you are listening to a DATAcated Expo. We are all involved in data, handling data in some form or shape. We are experts at data. We handle data at different stages in the pipeline. Some of us are data researchers, chief data officers, data analysts. We are data storytellers, data visualizers. So we have our own role. We are experts at handling data across the data pipeline. But it all starts with data collection. The entire data journey starts with data collection. So what are some of the ethical considerations of doing it right, collecting data in the most ethical way? Some considerations, right? That's if we keep the ethics at the forefront of whatever we do, then we will hopefully make the world and data and AI a better place than it is today. So I'm going to talk about my presentation on, what are some of the ethical design considerations for data collection. So there are three key components to data collection. The first one starts with the purpose. So start with the end goal in mind. What is it that you want to use this data that you're collecting for? Are you going to use it for a presentation? Are you going to use it to analyze trends? Like what exactly? Is it for a report? Is it for a research paper? And then define the data types you need for that outcome. Whether it's going to be an in-person interview, it's going to be a survey. Are you going to take data from customer data and analyze it? What is it exactly, the data types that you need for that particular outcome that you have in mind? And then the third would be your data collection method. So what is it that you need? How do you need to collect that data based on your final outcome? So reverse engineer your entire process for data collection, starting with the outcome. So what are some of the different data types, right? There can be confidential data type as well as anonymous. So confidential meaning that you are collecting PI information, personal identifiable information on your data subject. That's confidential information. Now it could be various things. It could be the name, social security number, age, where they live, address, their phone number, something that uniquely identifies them to themselves, like fingerprint. All those are confidential, personally identifiable information. Anonymous information is when you don't have any PI information tied to that. Anonymous can be in different ranges. Like, for example, if you're collecting survey data, it could be a girl. So it could be a person who is 21 years of age. It could be a girl, 21 years of age. Like you can be very big, broad anonymous, or you can get into granular anonymous. So it could be a person who is at age 21 to 48, living in California, and you still don't have any identifiable information in this, but you're still making it granular to the point that you are able to tell a better story. So you have to think of how detailed the information you need for the output you're looking for. This information can also be at an individual level or an aggregate level. So the individual level also has it can have identifiable or non-identifiable information, but it's still at an individual level. So you are saying, okay, Shilpi likes coffee, and you may not say Shilpi, but you may say this person living in California, this age, loves dark coffee, or whatever that may be. Versus aggregate, 50% of the people we surveyed or from this chart like black coffee, living in California in this region. So whether you are taking individual data or presenting aggregate data, definitely make sure of what your sources of aggregation are and how authentic those sources are. Sometimes we are so happy to see data, and I'm guilty of that. Like, we are so happy with all the tools that are there for visualization and for analysis, and so many data sources are available, Kaggle and data.gov and Google search and all these wonderful data sources, that we get lost in the process. We are excited about the data, and we sometimes forget what is it that we are collecting data for, or what is our end goal. So definitely think about those things. And then there comes the data collection, right? So many different forms of data collection, whether it's a questionnaire, whether you're doing a live interview, whether you're just observing your data subject, whether you're doing documents and records, you're doing online tracking of your website visitors. All of these fall under data collection methods. And you need to have clear privacy laws, data privacy laws, to inform your data subjects of what is it that you're doing and how are you going to collect this information, what are you collecting, and how are you going to use that information. So informed consent is one of the backbones of data collection. Like, without that, I don't think any data collection should ever be done or should be made possible. Inform your data subject, very key. Transparent communication between your company and your data subject that leads to an agreement and an informed consent. And it should have three main components. Your data subject should have a free will. Like, they should be able to say, no, I'm not going to give you this information. I don't feel comfortable giving you this information. They should be able to walk away without any consequence. The terms and conditions of your data collection should be front and center, informed very clearly, and not in, like, embedded into a 20-50 page of legal jargon where data subjects don't understand what you're doing, how you're doing it, how long will it be stored, and what you're going to do with it. Are you going to sell my information to a third party? And what are some of the other third party plugins that are running under the hood that are collecting information without me explicitly saying yes to them? So please, those are not ethical ways to collect some data. And then the power to change. So even if somebody gave you an informed consent at some point in their time, give them an option to always opt out and say, no. It could be after 3 months, 6 months, a year, but they should have the option to say, even if they signed up for your newsletter, always have an opt out for them to say, hey, now I don't want to give you my consent to use my data anymore. Some of these examples would be researchers informing participants about the study, and also your cookie policy that I mentioned. And like I said, opt-in, opt-out are very important. Some inherent models for cookies in the Europe as well as in America differ in terms of inherently opt-out models and opt-in models. But no matter what model you follow, whether it's for cookie policy, please show it front and center to your visitors that this is a model we are following, and there are options. If you want to opt out of our cookies, besides the essential, there are ways you can say that do not sell my information, or just do necessary cookies only performance cookies and nothing else. No ads, no nothing. So always give them an option. Also, CCPA, definitely, the California Consumer Privacy Act definitely gives consumers this right to say, do not sell my personal information. But as an ethical practice, I would say should be anybody who has a website who's collecting any information should have this option of saying that I do not want my personal information to be sold to anybody without my permission, because it's my data, I own it, I should be the one getting any advantage if you're going to make money out of it. So whether you are doing business in California or not, as an ethical practice, it's good to give your data subjects an option to say, do not sell my personal information. Have a clear sunset policy. So doesn't matter if you're collecting data, like for contact tracing, COVID-19 contact tracing apps collected a lot of location data, geolocation data, as well as a lot of other information. And people were okay sharing it because it was not only helping them, but it was for the greater good of the community and the world. And so they were okay with sharing very detailed personal information on where exactly where they are going 24/7, but that doesn't mean that we can store that data indefinitely. So please give everyone a clear sunset policy, like this is the amount of time we are going to store this data. Okay, we are going to do it until the pandemic is over, whatever that may be. Give them options. And I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the CCP and the GDPR. And so the CCPA obviously offers right to delete personal information to California consumers. But like I said, it's a good practice for everyone to follow that. And then the European Union General gives data subjects right to erasure. It's almost similar, but there are a little bit differences between how the two are applied. And so it's a good practice to follow CCP and GDPR, not just at the low bar of compliance, but we need to go beyond compliance. And last, I want to talk about one case study. H&M had to pay a $41 million fine because for a GDPR violation. And what they were doing was they were monitoring several hundred workers. When anybody took a vacation, they were forced to return to a conference where they would be asked very detailed questions on, their family, their vacation, their sick leaves, their family concerns, religious views. And to H&M, in their mind, they were doing it to assess performance as well as to make employment decisions. But so this was a clear violation of Article 9 of the GDPR, and it states that do not process personal information, particularly sensitive data on health and beliefs of people unless you have a particular need for it. And so it goes back to my original point, like do not collect more information than what you need. Always think about the end goal before you start collecting your data collection journey. And that brings up to, I know Kate mentioned briefly, Data Ethics for All is hosting AI Diet World, where DIET stands for Data and Diversity, Inclusion, Impact, Ethics, Technology, Ethics and Equity Teams and Technology. And we are trying to build the next generation of artificial intelligence with your help, which would be cognitive and inclusive. And so let's build a better AI diet world together. And we are celebrating ethics first people, products, and companies. And you can go to Data Ethics for All to register. And that's my time. I'm open to questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Shruti. Amazing presentation. I think a lot of people said that this is very relevant and really a topic that we don't talk about quite enough. We do have our first question here, and the question is web scraping ethical for data collection? So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh boy, you're putting me into hot water now. Well, I would think that, ethics is something that's personal, and everybody has to draw their own line as to what they consider ethical and what they don't consider ethical. It's like, how much truth, how much, that is same as what we do on an everyday basis. Same goes with data. So read the laws. Obviously, you have to comply with the laws. But then, like I said, the legal is a very low bar. And for ethics, we have to go way beyond the very low legal bar. And it has to come in an organization top down. It has to come from the leaders. If you're always thinking about, revenue and profits, then ethics gets left behind. So if we are always thinking about ethics first and it's coming from the top of the organization, everyone follows.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. We have a lot of similar questions. So I'll take one from Chandan. The question is, can we leave a crawler in a page that deals with live data and we keep getting the output with each update of the page? I guess the question again is this ethical? There are a lot of is this ethical questions coming in.
Yeah, I'm not going to give you like a recipe of whether this is or this isn't. I think this leaves for your legal team and for your internal teams to decide, read the laws. It depends on many factors: where you're crawling the data, what are the policies of that website that you're crawling the data from, what tool are you using to crawl that data, how are you storing it, how are you using that data. If you're using it for social good, you're using it for personal benefit, for personal profits, what is the use case? I think the use case is also very important in this case. So that's what I'll say.
I definitely agree. And I'll just take one last question. Since you mentioned GDPR and CCPA, question from Rahendra is, how is GDPR and other regulations that are similar enforced?
Yeah, so I mean, there are many different ways that they are enforcing it. Obviously, we have seen some hefty fines, and bigger companies are obviously at the brunt of it more than the smaller ones are. But we are all expected to, again, I keep going back to this, not only be compliant, go above it, think beyond it, think ethics in design. Like whatever you do, whether you're building a product, you're selling a product, or whether you're selling services, whatever you do, think of ethics at the forefront, think of it by design.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Shopi, thank you so much for your time today. And guys, go ahead and check out the event. I think it's coming up towards the end of October, right? What's
October
the
20th to 22nd.
Okay, and what was the site again if people want to check that out?
DataEthicsForAll.org.
Awesome. DataEthicsForAll.org. Thank you so much, Shopi, for your time. I'll see you online.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. All right, before I bring up our next speaker, let's briefly hear from one of our sponsors.
You need a better way to put your data to work. That's what you get with Sisense. With Sisense, analytics are infused right into your applications and workflows, so you don't have to go back and forth between multiple dashboards or displays to get the answers you need. Infuse analytics everywhere with Sisense.
All right, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our very next speaker, Andreas Kretz. You might already be familiar with him. He talks about all things data engineering and always about the plumbers of data science, who really are really important into the entire data science process. So Andreas is going to talk to us today about data engineers, the plumbers of data science. He has over 14 years of experience with computer science, over 8 years of corporate data science and IoT experience, and has over 300 hours of data engineering coaching experience. He was selected as the LinkedIn Top Voice in Data Science and Analytics in 2018 and in 2019. He holds a diploma in Applied Computer Sciences and is also a YouTuber and host of the Plumbers of Data Science podcast. I'm going to go ahead and bring Andreas up on our virtual stage here. Hello, Andreas.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank
Hi,
you so much for being here. I'm going to go ahead and give you your 10 minutes, so I'm going to hop off and let you take it away, and then we'll be back with questions.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, hi. Welcome, everybody. In this 10 minutes now, I'm going to talk, of course, about data engineering and what data engineers do and why it's the plumbing of data science. And we're going to talk a bit about why it's so difficult to learn, actually, and tools and platforms that data engineers actually work on. And I'm going to give you a few tips on how to get into data engineering. So generally, when you, as a setup, when you think about data engineering, where does that fit in? And it fits in, for instance, in data science platform. Every time you want to do some analytics and science, you need some kind of a platform where all of this is actually going to run on. And this is, or you have to think of this as, like, on the left side, you have your data sources where all the data is coming in. And on the right side, you have your consumers, people that are going to work with this, data scientists, analysts, users in general that are going to view results. And so they need a platform. And this is where basically the data engineers are coming in the middle, and they're going to help build pipelines to support these users. For instance, for data scientists, what data engineers do is integration of the data sources that are on the left. So we actually bring the data in and make it available to the data scientists. So the data scientists can do their analytics work, can create really nice results. And then these results actually need to go to some consumer. a person, a system, and this is also where then more pipelines need to be built, where the engineer then comes in again and helps basically deliver this information to the destination. Data engineers also make sure that pipelines are actually secure, and the whole operations part, because just development is one part. Running pipelines, making sure they're actually running continuously, finding problems quickly through monitoring and all sorts of alarming functions, and then actually fixing these problems. That's all engineering. That's all the lower part. It's very important. This is why you see some companies like Facebook most likely had a bit of problems yesterday. Most likely this was an engineering problem. So the plumbing of data science, why is this the plumbing? It already alludes to, it's basically invisible. You don't see it. The end user doesn't see it. From the data perspective, the people who push the data in don't care. It's in the background. It's basically invisible. But if you do it wrong, if you have problems with this, it's a huge mess. Just like the actual plumbing from the plumber. So that's why I say it's the plumbing of data science. Now, that's all good. People find it, though, very difficult to actually get into to learn. And why do they find it? It's because it's very there's very much to learn. It's a very wide field with a lot of tools and many platforms. On top of this is that every company, every use case has different needs, has different platforms. If you think of e-commerce, banking, or IoT, very different platforms, very different needs, very different tools in this. So when you look at this, and what I'm teaching to my students is there is actually a pattern behind it that you see all the time. And the pattern is basically this. Let me share my screen here. The pattern is basically this, that on the left side, how it starts is basically with an integration phase or integrate, where either you or the engineer hosts APIs, where external systems push the data in, or where you actually get data from external systems, like external hosted APIs or data warehouses that are already existing in the company, or some production relational databases. And then the data is actually streamed or processed in the middle, where very often you have in stream processing some kind of like a message queue, like Kafka is very popular right now. And then in the middle, you have your processing frameworks where you do the batch and stream processing, for instance, with Spark through a Databricks or something. And this is also where the scientists are going to apply their models or train their models. And then you're going up into a storage layer where you have your data lake, where you store your raw data, where you have transactional databases, where you have NoSQL databases, where you might have a data warehouse for internal analytics. And then on the right side here above me, this is where you have basically a visualization layer, where you have a web UI or a BI tool or a mobile app that uses actually a API that is hosted on the platform then to deliver these results from the stores. So I kept this very general, because you can now, when you go in and look what tool does what, you can actually fill the tools in, and you always see this pattern is always works, and I have very good experience with my students around this. So look at the blueprint. If you want that, you can check out my academy, where I talk later about this, or on my YouTube channel. I have actually, I think, videos on this that will help you towards this. One problem that I always get is, now with the blueprint and everything, it's nice, and you know how you can figure this out once you learn the basics. But people are telling me, okay, Andreas, I have this problem. I can't get a job because I don't have experience, and I don't have experience because I can't get a job. Like it's this cycle where people are stuck in. And there's actually a way of doing this for data engineering. It's a lot simpler than you actually think it is. You should get the basics done, and you need to focus only on two things there. Mainly software development. It's very important that you can code with Python and work with Git, for instance, that you can actually collaborate with your colleagues. And then you can work with relational databases, not just SQL queries, but actually that you know how to design a relational database, because these are basically the basis of everything. And also when you work with NoSQL databases, whenever you know how to do it in a relational, you find out, or you can figure out how to do it in a NoSQL and what would be the benefits there. So once you have the basics down, what I recommend is doing a personal project. Personal projects are very important for you to actually gain some experience, not by working somewhere and or reading a book, but to actually have hands-on experience. Gain this experience using popular tools. Go out there, look on the internet. Most likely you can do something with what is very popular is Kafka, Spark, MongoDB, for instance, or build something on AWS. Very, very popular tools that you see all the time. You can also use real world data that you find, for instance, on Kaggle, or use an API that is public, where you can then actually say, okay, let's see, I want to work in e-commerce. Let's see what in the job descriptions, what are people using in these industries, and like which tools, which platforms, and then find yourself a data set and work with this. And once you document this then and show your progress, then you can show actually to somebody in an interview. I couldn't talk about this in an interview, and actually show some experience, although you don't have like experience working in a job. So for somebody who's actually starting out, coming from university, or want to transition to data engineering, this is actually the perfect recipe. How I'm usually helping around this is, I mentioned it before, I have actually a data engineering academy where I'm using actually this personal project topic. In the academy, I'm teaching the basics of data engineering. I have prepared projects for AWS, for MongoDB and so on, or that use MongoDB, and Spark and Kafka, where you can actually say, okay, I'm taking these projects, I'm documenting these, and I'm doing it step by step, and then I'm expanding these, and you're going to find topics that you find interesting, you want to look into, and then you can add stuff up and make this project your own. These are all prepared stuff. I also do, as Kate alluded, I do personal coaching. Now for 2 years, I've done this as a part-time thing. For some time now, I'm doing this full-time. I'm coaching students one-on-one to actually get or become a data engineer, or learn data engineering if they're a data scientist. Yeah, if you want to learn data engineering, check out my academy at learndataengineering.com. And if you just want to check out my YouTube, I'm posting all the time on YouTube. Find me, Andreas Kretz, on YouTube. I think I have 350 videos right now about data engineering. Right now, I'm focusing a lot on actually making videos where I review architectures, for instance, on AWS from companies. It's really cool. It's a lot of fun for me. People like it. So check it out. And that's already it. Thanks.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Andreas. Amazing presentation. I really love how you get creative with the slide behind you. I've yet to master how to actually do that. You go from being in the sky with having this cool pipeline behind you. We have a lot of questions that came in, which is really cool. People really care about data engineering. I'm going to go ahead and ask one of the questions here now from Diego. The question is it necessary to use Kafka to store data, or can another technology be used?
Yeah, well, you have to always look into what you want to do with the data. Kafka is more as a message queue where you push data in and you publish data to it and you consume it. So it's usually not meant for long-term storage. These things are more for, I'm keeping it for a day or 2 days or a few days. There are, of course, exceptions to the rule. As I said, there are a lot of tools, and there are extensions where you can actually use it as a database. But these things are mainly meant for streaming data, for keeping this temporarily.
Okay, awesome.
Cool,
Thank you.
cool question, Diego. Thanks.
All right, the next one from Mahendra hopefully doesn't hit a nerve for you, Andreas, but what are the roles that data engineers perform? So what are the some of the technologies? I know you covered some of this already. So what are the technologies that a data engineer needs to learn? Is data engineering just a new buzzword for roles, tasks done earlier by some other title? Or do you think data engineer is this kind of new standalone role?
Yeah, let me start with the can you leave it up, because it was basically a three-part question. The last part, of course, it's not a completely new job, right? It's where do you find a completely new job nowadays? But it's a combination of a lot of things. And nowadays, whenever when you build new platforms, when you work with data scientists and data science, let's say data science pipelines, you need a job that is more integrated, that does everything end to end. Previously, you had a lot of jobs you had your database administrators who were focusing on the database. You had your networking people who did the networking. And now, nowadays, you're more focusing on doing an integrated job. And that's where the data engineer comes in. And basically, that also answers the first question. Best case, you do everything. You from getting the data in to actually making it available at the end.
Right.
Depends a bit on the use case and if it's a startup or like just an analytics platform. But I think that goes too much into the details. Technologies, it's hard to say. Look into job descriptions. There's everything, but most of the time you find something like AWS, because people move to the cloud, and AWS is the most used one. And then the tools within AWS that fit actually to the blueprint. Yeah.
All right, thanks for that. There's a question from Goran just asking if there's a replay for the sessions. Yes, the recordings will be up on LinkedIn and YouTube. We'll actually have a playlist as early as tomorrow. And Andreas, several other questions, data engineering related, that if you have the time to hop over to LinkedIn and respond individually, that would be great. But I think we are at time here for our session. So thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. I'm going to be in the chat.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Andreas. All right. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our very next speaker. His name is David Swinor, and he is going to be talking to us about the human side of AI, accelerating business outcomes. David is a thought leader, international speaker, and author. He specializes in AI, ML, data science, business intelligence, and IoT. David has over 20 years of hands-on business analytics experience spanning product marketing, strategy, product development, and data warehousing. In his current role as the Senior Director of Product Marketing at Alteryx, David is responsible for go-to-market strategy for the data science and machine learning portfolio. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring up David Swinor. Hello, hello. Welcome to the DATAcated Expo.
Hey, Kate. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We're excited to hear from you. I'm going to go ahead and jump off well, I'm not going to jump off the stage. I'll walk off the stage gently, and I'll share your slides. I will see you in about 10 minutes with questions.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much. And, data engineering, that was a great topic before. I'm a little bit hungry. We were talking about sandwiches earlier, but let's get to it. So, hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to DATAcated. You made it. You're here, and I'm excited to be here with you. So, we've been talking about AI for years. But do you know why 74% of organizations within the last year have experimented or deployed AI in their business? Really, two reasons. 46% of the people surveyed said AI is now more accessible, and 44% say it was related to really changing needs, business needs due to COVID-19. So with close to 43% of companies accelerating their adoption to AI, what is your company or organization doing? And how can you get started with AI? Before we can answer that, I want to share a quick story. When I started my career in high-tech manufacturing, I was a yield characterization engineer in this IBM facility. This means it was my job to figure out why we're not getting enough yield using AI. So if you're not familiar with semiconductors, that's okay. Then go through thousands of process steps, tens of thousands of different equipment combinations, and take 3 to 6 months to build these things. One time there was a yield bust. So how do I solve this problem? I was in yield characterization. That's building 972. It's the gray roofed building in the upper left. They solved it one way. Quality was in the middle of the screen, the white roofed building. Quality solved that very same problem in a different way. The test engineers, all the way in building 963 to the far right, they solved that very same problem in a very different way. All of the groups were copying, pasting things from paper records and spreadsheets into different systems. I thought, huh, that's quite odd to me. So in many cases, these different groups, they were not collaborating. They did not know how each other was solving that same problem. So I thought it was a bit ironic. If you look at this facility in 1961, there was a standard way of doing things. There was an automated way of doing things. The different lines here in this picture, you can see they could collaborate, and the best practices were built into the process. People were at the center of the process. I think we can learn a thing for the past or two. So how does work get done in your organization? Is it repeatable? Is it reusable? Is it automated? Is it informed by analytic insights? For many organizations, it's not. I personally believe that AI can be transformative for your business. If you can listen for the next 8 minutes, I'd like you to consider how you can get started with AI and scale it across your organization. If you do this, the results can propel your company to a tremendous competitive advantage. Reduce costs. We can apply AI and intelligent automation to solutions to automate the mundane. We can improve time to value and reduce complexity. Improve decision-making within your organization by reducing latency and becoming more predictable. And then we can reimagine the customer experience, changing the way people interact with technology, hyper-personalized offers, and deal with AI in human terms, not robotic. Before we can do that, we need to level set. I want to provide you with a pragmatic definition of AI. I want you to understand your role and the role of others within your organization. I want to give you some tips on how to get started with AI. But before we can get started, what's holding your company back? What are some of the common challenges? When I talk to clients, really these challenges center on 3 things. 1, limited expertise. Some of this is really due to lack of understanding with what AI is and how to put you can apply it within your organization. Maybe this is the case within your organization. There's increasing data complexity with databases, data swamps, spreadsheets, and processes. Things are in motion at rest. Things are always increasing in complexity. And there's really lack of tools and talents. Several years ago, this was really in the realm of specialists. Today, AI is approachable and it's achievable by you. Now we understand some of the benefits and challenges. What goes through your head when you think about AI? Well, here's what goes through my head. 2001, A Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick. Dave just wanted Hal to open the pod bay doors. Hal, please open the pod bay doors. Then we went to Terminator and Skynet with the AI Defense Network. We had to send Arnold in to make sure the AI wins. But lucky for us, he didn't win. We got like 5 more movies out of this franchise. And then lastly, building on our cyborg theme, we have Westworld. So although the animatronics are quite good in this, I don't think we're quite there yet. So we move beyond the hype. We move beyond the headlines. AI has a more relatable definition. It's actually a really pragmatic definition in my mind. All right, here it is, the big reveal. AI in my mind consists of 2 elements. Number 1, we take analytics, data science, and machine learning. We create insights from data. We add that with automation technologies to help to distribute those insights to the right person or system at the right time. You get AI. Does that make sense? Now, I've heard about automation. There are some fears about it taking our jobs. I want to ask if these fears are legit. Well, we've been here before. Let's look at previous revolutions. The Industrial Revolution, the implications of this really included a wider distribution of wealth and increased international trade. Then we had digitization. So many of us lived through this. The number of PCs in the 1990s was around 100 million. Today, there are about 5 billion computers out there. I have about 3 on my desk right now. So this has had really a profound economic, societal, and governmental implications. Where would we be without our smartphones? And then lastly, today we're in the age of AI. There's automated insights. It's not the Terminator, it's you. It's applying analytics and automation via AI to achieve AI. So I don't have a crystal ball, but I truly believe this will help humanity, from societal issues like food insecurity, human rights, healthcare, to the small things like allowing me to spend more time with my family, friends, rather than doing the same thing over and over. So if we look at how decisions are made within organizations, there's really a spectrum. So on the left, we have human-led decisions with essentially no automation. And in the far right, the machines, the robots make all of the decisions. Well, the human element really is at the very center of nearly all of these decision processes. So beyond helping my kids with their math homework, I don't really do much math with paper and pencil anymore. I use my calculator and software to help. Well, you're at the center of this. When I was trying to solve yield problems, the computers and software help, but the engineers, they're at the center of this. We use analytics and automation to make faster decisions. We made more predictable decisions. We made better decisions. If I'm an accountant and I'm relying on PDFs or timesheets to look at tax returns, there's not really a ton of value to me to copying and pasting these into the latest system. I can automate that. I can use some analytics to audit the results, surface the exceptions, and automate the mundane. So now we've looked at the automation framework, and you understand you're at the center of this decision process. Let's look at how companies really typically enable this. On the left, we have some highly skilled analytic individuals with data science, perhaps data engineers, machine learning engineers, and developers. On the right, we have everybody else, accountants, marketing professionals like myself, tax professionals, engineers. They have questions that need answering today. What's our current attrition rate? How are sales moving this week? Is our inventory optimized? Clearly, there are not enough data scientists to service all of these requests. So how should your organization invest its resources? There's one other tidbit I wanted to share. According to HBR, the Coe model, that's the one on the left, their research showed a 0% satisfaction rate with relying only on a Coe. Now, 0%, that's pretty low. So organizations really, in the end, they need to fund both. There are high value, high dollar, and potentially high risk projects that are core to your business strategy. You need to fund that. Simultaneously, you need to provide an upskilling path for everybody else within your organization. There's significant money to be made. In fact, Fortune estimated 500,000 managers' days of time are wasted every year due to ineffective decision making. Now, many of the small decisions, if they could be automated, would have a huge impact on your business. The investment might be 60-40, it might be 40-60, it might be something else, but there needs to be a balance. It can't be one or the other. So let's look at an example. Brookson is an accountancy in the UK. Anthony Bate, who's the head of analytics and did not have a formal background in analytics, had to make a choice. Hire an army of people to copy and paste from timesheets, which were in PDF, into their systems, or automate this. He chose automation. He not only automated, but in real time, he sent status messages to their clients via WhatsApp. Now, that's a great example of AI. So, in our experience with our customers, we've shown to make this happen. There's really, AI is a change management process. You need to have the strategies and tactics how you can drive this democratization of AI and fundamentally upskill a significant portion of your workforce. So there's really 3 steps that lead to best-in-class adoption and democratization of AI. And these are the basics of nearly any change management journey. So number 1, you need to make people aware of what is possible and excited enough to want to invest in training themselves. Number 2, you need to provide the training and tools for people to go on their journey. And finally, number 3, you need to sustain and support them once they're up and running. This means ongoing support, recognition, that needs to be built into the process. Each of these strategies, we have a myriad of tactics there, and happy to discuss any particular one in more detail. So to help you, our Alteryx community has a ton of resources to get you started, whether you want to participate in a weekly challenge, pursue a certification, or take self-service modules. There's a tremendous amount of material out there. Most of that's free. So to summarize, really, it's not HAL, it's not the Terminator or Westworld. It's about applying analytics and automation to everyday problems. For organizations, you need to implement an AI literacy program, an upskilling path for learning modules. AI doesn't create itself, and a human needs to be accountable. Look at the AI automation framework. And lastly, how to get started, strategy alignment, literacy programs, and support and ongoing nurturing. So go back to my wandering through that factory. It was about establishing a repeatable process, a standard way of automating things with best practices built in. AI is not going to take your job. AI is going to improve your life so you can spend more time with your friends and family. And with that, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, David, for the great presentation. I really love everything that you've covered today. We have a lot of questions that came in. We're going to get started with one here from Rahendra, and he's asking, does the human side of AI involve explainable AI? How much has the use of integration of explainable AI expanded, especially by big companies and influencers?
Yes, I mean, explainable AI is a huge component to the human side of AI. If people can't explain why a decision was made, it's that's a problem. It's not satisfying to regulators, and it's not satisfying to me if I'm denied credit or defined a healthcare treatment or whatever. We need to have explainability definitely built into the system. I have a whole other presentation on that. Happy to talk through that if people are interested in that.
Awesome. Maybe the next conference we can have that as a whole topic there. Thank
Be
you.
happy to.
Another question here from Luke, and he's asking, what would you say is the biggest potential benefit or business use case for AI? Is it reducing effort or increasing control, quality? Which would you use to sell AI investment?
You know, I think it's all of the above. So there's definitely top line results and bottom line returns, you know, with any AI initiative. So I think, you know, we can reduce costs, we can improve process, and really it's about the customer experience, the customer journey. What can we do to make your customers feel better? How can AI be helped to make these services better for your customers?
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. And earlier in your presentation, you mentioned there were three things: limited expertise, increased data complexity, and lack of tools. So I wanted to ask, which one of those three, I guess, are causing the most complications that you've seen across clients?
You know, I think it comes down to, I think the tools have come a long way. I think there's the general confusion of what AI is. I still think it's the Terminator. That was one of my favorite shows, but the tools have come a long way. So really sitting down and understanding what your core business processes are, what is the business decision that needs to be made. You need to work backwards from that business decision, and you can use AI to help improve that business decision, make it repeatable and make it more predictable.
Awesome, thank you. And then next one is not a question, it's really a comment from Antti. He's saying, you know, using Alteryx at work has made automating his workflows fast and possible and fast. Next, it's about helping others with theirs. So just a quick Alteryx shout out there.
Oh, thank you. That was great. That's wonderful. And I actually have had a lot of Alteryx customers come to me and say, David, Alteryx has changed my life. I'm like, no, it can't be. It's software. Like, no, seriously, it has changed my life. And it's due to that automation. So they're not doing the same mundane thing over and over, day in and day out.
I'm sure you love hearing that as well.
I do. It was quite shocking.
All right, so this is all the time. We do have more questions. If you or someone from the team has time to hop into LinkedIn and answer some of those questions. Sophia says, great presentation. Yes, guys, please, if you're enjoying the talks, go ahead and hit that like button and share the conference so we can get more people into the sessions. But David, I would like to thank you once again for your time here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
All right, thank you so much, Kate. Cheers.
Right. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our very next speaker. You might be familiar with her from LinkedIn, Mrs. Susan Walsh, the classification guru. I literally cannot say just Susan Walsh. I have to say the classification guru. It sort of just makes sense. And the topic of her talk today is Between the Spreadsheets. Yes, you heard that right. With a decade of experience fixing your dirty data, Susan Walsh is the classification guru. Susan is the founder and managing director of the Classification Guru Limited, a specialist data classification, taxonomy, customization, and data cleansing consultancy. She is an industry thought leader, TEDx speaker, and author of the newly published book, Between the Spreadsheets, Classifying and Fixing Dirty Data. She's also the founder of Coe. Now, Susan is kind enough to give away 2 copies of her book today, so please go ahead and use the hashtag spreadsheets in order to participate. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you could see exactly the word we're using here. A lot of times it's helpful to see it on screen. So if you want to participate, just use hashtag spreadsheets. We're going to select 2 winners at the end of her talk. So go ahead and put that into the comments wherever you're joining us from, LinkedIn, YouTube, or other platforms. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring up Susan Walsh on our virtual stage. Susan, you're here. Welcome to the DATAcated Expo. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for changing your top for me as well.
All right. Anyways, I have not done that. You're just, you're confused, I think. So.
Yeah, I'm just
kidding.
imagining it. Yeah.
I want to see how many times I can change with people not noticing that I've been changing. I have a lot of DATAcated shirts that I did not know which one to wear, so I've decided to wear them all today.
I like the I Love Data one. That was cute.
Oh, that was actually from Kristen Kerr from Data Moves Me. She sent me that one, so that's a really cool one. But don't want to waste any more of your time here. I'm going to hop off the stage and let you take it away for the next 10 minutes.
Thanks so much, Kate. Hello, everybody. I am Susan Walsh, the classification guru. If you don't know me, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am so excited to talk to you today about Between the Spreadsheets, fixing dirty data. So what am I going to be talking about? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself because that's my favorite subject. Then I'm going to talk about what is dirty data because we're all working with different types of data. And then what are the consequences of that dirty data? And then how can you ensure that data accuracy? Followed by a little bit of how to maintain and spot check your data in Excel. Then I'm just going to briefly touch on other tools because we're all using different tools in the world these days. The common one that we have is Excel. Then I am going to share with you the dirty data maturity model, which you are going to love. And then finally, I'm going to summarize everything. So without further ado, let's tell you a little bit about myself if you don't already know. I fell into data by complete accident. And after my first business failed, I was desperate for a job and found an ad online. And that is where I found my love and my passion for data. And after 5 years of being there, that is when I set up the Classification Guru, and I've been doing that for the last 4 years. And as you can see, I'm working across the whole globe in multiple languages. I'm doing data classification, normalization, taxonomy customization, cleansing databases. And more exciting than that, you've already heard about it, but I have a book and it's out and I'm so excited about it. And it's called Between the Spreadsheets, Classifying and Fixing Dirty Data. So get those hashtag spreadsheets in so that you get the chance to possibly win one at the end. But that's enough about me. What is dirty data? Well, first of all, it can be something like misspelt words. You will find this in descriptions, names, etc. It could be incorrect descriptions, something that doesn't even relate to the product that it actually is or whatever it is. And then missing codes as well can be really common. People don't set up products properly on a system. Oh, I'll go back and put the code in later, and then it doesn't happen. Then there's data in the wrong columns. How many times have you found a zip code or a postcode in the county or town column? And of course, no standard units of measure. So, you know, are we talking liters spelt multiple different ways, or, you know, different, you know, meters or inches, all that kind of stuff. So it can get messy. And then currency issues as well can be a problem, and also rounding within that. So, you know, it can make things not add up and make data very, very messy. And then there's formatting. So I have just done a couple of polls on LinkedIn, and oh my goodness, the problems that we have with date formatting. Nobody can agree on a standard. I know there's an ISO standard, but nobody wants to use it, or very few people do. And they're using different formats for different things. So in Excel, it might be one format, and then for file naming conventions, it's something completely different. So that can cause a whole range of problems. And of course, it can lead to our good old friends, the duplicates as well. Now, I spend a lot of my time classifying spend data. So I wanted to share a couple of examples of what dirty data looks like in my world. So the first one I wanted to share with you was LinkedIn. So somebody classified this as a restaurant because the description said restaurant. And the reason that I want to share this example with you is because context is so important. You can't look at a single column, a single row, or a single cell. You could look at the row, but you need to look at the data as a whole to get the context of what's going on. Because yes, the description does say restaurant, but actually we all know what LinkedIn is. This is how we all met. We networked, we are training, we're getting jobs on it. We are not getting food from LinkedIn. And then the second one is around assumptions. So Tinder Corporation came up in data for a UK company, a charity that I was doing some work for. And when I saw this, I thought there's no way that they could be working with Tinder. Absolutely not. And of course, the description didn't add up with my assumption of what Tinder was. So when I did some digging, I found out that Tinder UK Limited is actually an IT services company. So never assume, because it can get you in trouble. And of course, it's the same with normalization. Granger's a great example of where in the UK it's a house builder and in the US it's hardware and things like that. So it's really important to never just assume, always check and use the data to guide you. So why should we bother about this? Well, you're going to save time if you get it right first time. It's going to be costly to rectify. It's going to affect the decision-making processes. It's going to impact all areas of the business. It's wasted money. GDPR, we've heard about this. If you don't have your data right, it's not just good enough to store it securely. You have to have the right and accurate data as well. And that can cause reputational damage if you don't get that right. And the cost of that can be far greater than any financial cost. And of course, dirty data makes your life more difficult. So who wants that? But, you know, these are all negative things. What could there be good things? That if we managed to keep our data nice and clean and tidy, well, absolutely. We would save time. We would be more efficient. We would increase profitability for ourselves, our own businesses, or our employers. And you would hope that if it's your employer, they would then pass that on to you in the form of bonuses, etc. So that's the incentive for keeping your data clean as well. So what about the consequences of dirty data? Well, what about reporting and decision making? We've seen some great chats from Avery around data visualization, but actually, what if that data is wrong? And I will show you that in a minute, because before that, the consequences are in reporting and decision making, it's cost savings. It's going to affect things like supplier negotiations. It's going to affect things like supplier rationalizations. If you're doing normalization, forecasting, dirty data is going to have an effect on that. Budgets. Imagine if you could have more budget for your business, but you don't because the data's wrong. What about targeting the right customers? You are mailing, posting, emailing, spending time contacting people that are not your right client. That's a waste of time and money. And then things like shipping the right products. You know, if you've got the wrong codes, missing information, you could be not just sending out the wrong product to your customer, but the costs of the shipping and all the warehousing time to fix it all adds up. Now, this is where it gets good. Analytics. Here are some unnormalized suppliers. So this is something that I would see in my job quite a lot. Lots of different suppliers, but actually a lot of them look kind of similar. When they're normalized, that picture changes a lot. Suddenly you only have 4 suppliers and the spend with them is significantly greater. And it might not be spend in your data, it might be sales or usage of products or materials, but it's significantly different and will affect the decisions, things like forecasting as well and production. So it's really important to make sure that everything's normalized and categorized properly. And then there's technology implementation. We have heard about that today. Data cleansing is often neglected before it even starts. And the problem with that is the errors are only discovered post-implementation. And staff lose faith in the data, they become disengaged, they claim it doesn't work, and they don't trust it because it's wrong. And it's going to cost a lot of money to fix. Then you have to hope that staff will adopt the technology after it's been fixed, and they might have lost faith. You might have to abandon that project. It could be costly. And we've also heard about AI and machine learning today. Well, actually, guess what? That's the same. You have to have clean, prepared data before you start on and embark on these projects. AI learns from training data sets. If they are wrong, it's going to learn the wrong thing. Very much the same with machine learning. If you're basing codes and rules based on data sets, if it's not right, it's going to spread wrongness, even that, if that's a word. And it is the old adage, we've already heard it today. I'm going to say the UK version, which is rubbish in and rubbish out. So, how can we ensure any data accuracy for this? Well, firstly, there's no quick fix, shortcut, or magic button that's going to do this. You have to have people looking at it, hopefully, who are experienced in that area. You have to get the whole organization involved. It's everybody's responsibility. You have to agree those common standards, terms, and processes. You have to maintain and refresh your data, and you have to spot check it regularly. And how can you help do that between you and all your team? Well, you can make sure your data has its coat on. And if you don't know what coat is, I'm going to tell you now. It is something that anybody, data or non-data within your organization, can remember. It's consistency, so using those same terms and processes. It's organization, categorize it so you can find it easily. It's accurate, so that you know you can trust it. And when you have all that, you will have trustworthy data. And then there's maintenance and spot checking the data. So very quickly, you get a pivot table in Excel, you put it in a tabular form, you remove the subtotals, and suddenly you can start to see when things don't look right. And you might want to add in extra levels of detail to check as well, or reverse it. And sometimes we do like supplier description, actually check it by category, because sometimes other things will pop out. And of course, that's Excel. It's laborious, it's hard, it doesn't like large data sets. There are a number of different tools out there. I always get asked about mine. My tool of choice is Omniscope, but you could apply these methods to this as well. And then finally, I'm just going to very quickly touch on the dirty data maturity model. We have our dirty data, that's the bottom of the pile. Then we have our declassed data, our distributed data. If you're a bit better than that, you have disordered data. And of course, the pinnacle is dirt-free data. But don't be fooled by that. Once you've reached the pinnacle of dirt-free data, you have to work really hard to keep it there. You can't just rely on it being correct and leave it. And if you want to know more, there's plenty about it in the book. So that's it. I have totally run over time, which I said I wasn't going to do. So I'm just going to tell you quickly, there are no shortcuts. You have to know and maintain your data. You have to agree common standards. You have to get everybody involved in the organization. And you have to make sure your data has its coat on. And finally, these are my details. Don't forget the book. Connect with me, scan the QR code, and I will answer as many questions as I can. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you so much, Susan. Amazing presentation, and you're right on time, so don't worry about that.
That's good.
Thank you. You covered a lot in 10 minutes.
I did.
We do have time for 1 or 2 questions. We're going to take a question, do a giveaway, take another question, and do another giveaway. So
sounds good.
Quick reminder for people to participate in the giveaway, #spreadsheets, and we're going to go ahead and jump to our first question here from Jose. The question is, it's easy. Can we get this book on Amazon?
You can, on Amazon anywhere in the world. But depending on where you are in the world, it will either be available right now or within the next few weeks. So yeah, it's there. There is another Between the Spreadsheets book, but it's not that. It's not that one. It's not the one with the people on the cover. It's definitely this one.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. I'm gonna go ahead. Share my screen, and we're going to hit draw for the very first winner. All right, and I'll write this name down. Yep, drum roll, let's do it. Congratulations to Chandra. All right, awesome. We're going to follow up after.
Are you making a note of this, or do I need to make a note?
I'm making a note. I'm making a note. Plus, this is recorded. It just makes it easier to follow up later. Yeah. We did have a lot of comments back to you about dates, and it's just so far to scroll up. But a lot of people have very strong feelings for how you should be displaying dates.
I know. If you go and look at my 2 previous polls, there's a lot of discussion about this, and nobody agrees.
And Mike just said he bought the wrong book, so hopefully it's not too late to go back. We'll take a question here from Suvadeep. He's asking, can most data not be fixed at the data collection stage? Wouldn't that be great if all data was just collected properly?
Yeah, that's the dream. But a lot of the problems are, a lot of the people who collect the data are not data people. And we have to train and change culturally their attitude towards data, make it less intimidating, and let them understand the consequences of what happens when they don't fill it in properly.
Okay, thank you. And we'll just take one more question before the next giveaway. Filippo's asking, how do you usually clean the different date formats?
You know, honestly, I do it manually. In my tool, Omniscope from Visokio. And actually, I don't think I've got a bit about dates in the book, but I have a process. But you know, sometimes there is no quick and easy option. Sometimes you just have to do it the hard way.
Get in there.
Yeah, if you
Roll up
want
the
it right,
sleeves.
it has to be done.
And get dirty, yes.
Yeah.
Get dirty between the spreadsheets, got it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's go ahead and do our next giveaway. I'm going to go ahead and draw again. All right, good luck, everybody. This is for the Between the Spreadsheets book from Susan Walsh. If you don't win, definitely go to Amazon and pick it up. I've ordered my copy. I'm still waiting for it.
Remember this one.
Yes, Valerie, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yes, make sure you get the right book.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Susan, thank you so much for joining us here today at the DATAcated Expo. And another huge thank you for joining me for the first hour before we even went live to kind of help me set the
stage. And look how fabulous you are. You're doing great.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, Susan, we'll see you online. Follow Susan Walsh. She puts out great content. We'll see you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our very next speaker. I'm going to go ahead and pull up his quick speaker card here so we can all see him. This is a Mr. Joseph Reis, or he goes by Joe Rice. Let's learn a little bit about Joe. He is a recovering data scientist who's worked in a variety of data roles: analytics, machine learning, engineering, architecture, and more. And since the early 2000s. So Joe is the co-founder and CEO of Ternary Data, a data engineering / architecture consulting firm with a global client and partner base. And he teaches data at the University of Utah. He is also the co-founder of the Utah Data Engineering Meetup and SLC Python, the home of some popular podcasts, the Monday Morning Data Chat, the Data Nerd Herd, the Let's Talk Data Engineering. He's also a blogger, a speaker at global data conferences, and co-author of The Fundamentals of Data Engineering, which I guess is coming out from O'Reilly in 2022. I'm going to go ahead and bring Joe up on our virtual stage here. Joe, welcome to the DATAcated Expo.
Hello, everybody. How's it going? So I'm going to keep this pretty informal, actually. I don't have any slides, and that's on purpose. So I'm going to ask the audience out there in the comments. We're going to talk about ETL and ELT. So if you can write, if you've heard of ETL, write ETL. If you've heard of ELT, write that. If you've heard of both, write both. And if you've heard of neither, write neither. So I just want to kind of get a consensus of who's heard of what. So anyway, let's dive into it. We got a few minutes. Let's go. We're going to describe ELT and ETL. These are two different paradigms you're going to use when you're loading data into a data warehouse. And so why do we care? Well, as I like to say, data transformations are where you start getting the ROI out of your data. Raw data, loading into a data warehouse, that's kind of useful, but then you have to query it and join it to tables. At that point, you're sort of doing a transformation. And so, again, when you transform data, whether you're querying it or transforming that in sort of a process into a new type of data, that's when you start getting real insights from your data. What do we mean, though, by ETL, ELT? Let's get into this real quick. So ETL is a traditional way of getting data into a data warehouse. This is when you have a source and a destination, and you're going to bring data in to the source. But along the way, you're going to transform the data from the source into a form that you can land into this destination here. So this is, let me give you a bit of a history lesson too. So this is traditionally how things have been done. Back in the 80s and 90s when data warehousing was taken off, computers were slow, hardware was very expensive. And so you didn't have a lot of resources to simultaneously like load data, transform it in the same data warehouse. And so you typically had to basically extract the data from a source system, transform it into a shape that would be useful, then land it into that destination, which is your data warehouse. So what changed? Why do we have these weird acronyms? Why do we switch these letters around? Well, around the late 2000s, early 2010s, cloud computing came about, right? Cloud computing changed a lot of things. As I'm sure that you know, what it meant is you had cheap commodity hardware that you could rent in the cloud. So data warehouse systems, they used to cost millions of dollars, and you used to have to store these things in a server rack at your company, and in a data center and so forth. And sort of what happened is the cloud flipped that on its head, where now you can just rent out a data warehouse for like 25 cents an hour. And so Redshift on AWS is the first one to do this in 2012. And what happened with this is Amazon said, well, we'll just let you rent out a data warehouse for super cheap, cost you dollars per day. This fundamentally changed things as well, because what happens in the cloud is you have infinite storage and basically limitless compute depending on your budget. And so now the constraints of having to extract data, transform it, and load it into a system sort of go away when you're in the cloud. Now you have the capability of just running all your transformations within the cloud data warehouse itself and bypassing the the ETL mechanism. So along comes ELT. So what is this? Well, you have your source and your destinations here, and now you're going to take data from your source, land it in your destination, and then you're going to do your transformations in your destination. This is a fundamental rethink of how transformations and data warehousing and data architectures have worked. And so again, ETL is when you're going to extract, transform on route, and then land it into your destination. ELT, you're just going to take the data out of your source, load it into your destination, and do your transforms there. So which one is right for you? That's a good question. I would say if you're resource constrained, if you have to use on-prem and you have expensive hardware, ETL is probably a good solution for you. If you're using legacy tools like an Informatica or SSIS or something, again, ETL is probably a good use case for you, or that's probably how you're gonna have to do things. But I'd say if you're in the cloud, I don't know that there's really a reason to do ETL anymore. ELT is a cheaper, more effective option. Just land your data, do what you need with it. Storage is very cheap. And so there's some great tools for this. Every cloud has its own way of transforming data. You could use Glue on AWS, Dataflow on GCP, Data Factory in Azure, and so forth. And there's a variety of open source tools you can get to as well for ELT. Like I said, for most modern use cases, I don't see a need to do ETL anymore. Just do ELT. And also, I think that there's some things you got to watch out for with ELT. When you're loading your data into your destination system, you want to make sure that you're keeping track of this data. The thing I see often is you become a data swamp, so to speak, right? You can't manage your data. It accumulates. All this raw data has nowhere to go. And pretty soon you have an untenable mess on your hands. So just make sure you're keeping track of those assets in your data warehouse, in your staging area. On top of that, you might hear some buzzwords. Reverse ETL is that's coming on the scene. I see a comment here. Robert says BLT. I actually have this in my notes too. And it's a term I would like to actually use to replace reverse ETL. Reverse ETL is basically when you take the data out of your data warehouse and you load it back into a transactional system that it came from, right? So think of loading your data out of, taking your data out of your data warehouse and loading it back into Salesforce. Say you did a customer scoring model or something, right? And you want your salespeople to have that data. Reverse ETL is how you do it. I actually have more of an acronym, like a BLT, so bidirectional load and transform. So a bit tongue in cheek, but I think it more accurately actually describes what you're trying to do with reverse ETL. So anyway, to recap, no shortage of buzzwords, acronyms. You got ETL, ELT, reverse ETL, BLTs now. So with that, I hope that this was informative for you, and I hope you have fun in your transformation journey. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. You've opened up a big can of worms with this ETL versus ELT. We have flooded the chat with a lot of ELT, ETL, lots of people saying both. Somebody said they like turtles. I mean, I don't know. people are getting very creative. A few questions for you. First, I have a question around your book. When can people expect to, be able to buy that book?
To buy it next year. So,
Next year.
yeah, Merry Christmas. But actually, on that note, we have early release chapters coming out in O'Reilly as soon as next week. So stay tuned on that. So the book is the Fundamentals of Data Engineering, and it covers ETL, ELT, BLTs, and so forth. So, and a lot more, obviously. So.
Okay, awesome. Drupad has a question. In your intro, I said that you are a recovering data scientist. And the question is why? It makes it sound like data science is a drug. Please explain.
Yeah, I smoked a lot of data science back in the day, and just had to take a break. No, I mean, when I got into data science, I got into machine learning back in like the late 2000s, early 2010s, and the things I had seen really was, early on trying to do machine learning in production. It's really hard, right?
Yeah.
Everything I saw that was a machine learning question ended up becoming an engineering question at the end of the day. And so I ended up doing, data engineering. Wasn't even called that back then. I don't think data science really called it. Machine learning engineering at a very early time. And I just realized, without building a foundation for data and data science, all you're doing is just basically making toy programs in a Jupyter notebook, and that's about it. So it's a tongue-in-cheek thing. I think it was a group of data scientists you probably know of. We kind of gave each other this joking moniker called recovering data scientists or reformed data scientists, and it just stuck. So
awesome. Thank you. Question here from Ruben. If your destination does not have the capability to transform the way you need it, you have to ETL instead of ELT. Which one?
Yeah, most likely. I mean, I'm guessing that if your destination doesn't have the power to do the transformations, then yeah, you'll probably need to do ETL. Mm-hmm.
Okay. We had a sort of personal question come up here from Grace. Are you also a DJ? Because you notice the turntables in the back.
Oh, you should see my, this isn't even a fraction of it, but yeah, I've been a DJ since like the late 90s, early 2000s. So club DJ. So.
All right. And we'll take one last question here from George Fieriken. He's asking, which one do you prefer, ETL, ELT, or BTL?
I like buffets, so all the above.
All the above. Okay, awesome. I guess, it just whenever.
I think it's all situation dependent. Yeah, I think that there's what I notice is there's a lot of religious wars that go on with this kind of stuff, and I would say just pick the right approach for the right tool and the right job. So.
Awesome. All right. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us here today, guys. Go check out the 10,000 podcasts that Joe is hosting. And what's the best way to reach you, Joe?
Yeah, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can find me. Just type in my name, Joe Reese, or Joe Price, as you say. So you can also find me at ternarydata.com. Subscribe to our newsletter. Also on YouTube at Ternary Data. So smash the like button, subscribe, become a fan. So.
Awesome. All right. Well,
Thanks.
Joe, thank you so much. We'll see you online. I'm going to go ahead and bring up our very next speaker here. Let me introduce you to Jennifer Stirrup. Jen is going to talk to us about, is your data your organizational North Star or a Death Star? Navigating better decisions with your data. Jen is the CEO and founder of Data AI, Data Science, and Business Intelligence Consultancy. She's a global keynote speaker, award-winning and internationally recognized digital transformation influencer, and she's also a top 50 women in tech influencer. I'm going to go ahead and bring Jen up to our virtual stage. Hello, hello. Welcome to the DATAcated Expo.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm the second Scottish lady today.
Yes.
So it's been going really well.
Yes,
so thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Jen. I'm going to hop off and let you take it away. I'll share your screen.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me today. So we've had so many great topics so far, and it's going to be hard to live up to that. But this time in the afternoon is usually the graveyard shift. So I thought, what will really wake people up? Here we are. Let's have a little look. I want to talk to you about your data. Is it your organizational North Star, or is it a Death Star? So, like many of you, I'm battle hardened when it comes to dealing with my data. So I take tips from the experts in battle, people like Darth Vader, the Jedi, and the Stormtroopers. Let's look at the tips that we can learn from Star Wars with regards to the processes and the challenges that we face every single day when planning, designing, and delivering both small and large business intelligence projects. We all know that data is a dark art, and there's no better master to teach us than Lord Vader himself. So, welcome to the dark science of data science. In the Star Force, we talk a lot about the Force. It's an energy field created by all living things, and it binds the galaxy together. You could say the same about data, that it binds businesses together. Where that is in good hands, that force becomes a power for good in the organization. But it can be used for good, and like the Force, it can be used for evil as well. So let's have a think about how we can use their data to become our organizational North Star, to help us to drive to make good decisions rather than our Death Star. One thing I've always thought important is that it's always about the people. And that's what we've heard from speakers so far, like Susan Walsh, who are talking about getting our data right. And it's a theme that underpins data science. It's so important to get our data definitions right. This is one of my favorite pictures of Darth Vader. When you're trying to work in an organization about defining your data, sometimes people can make that very political. We can also need to watch out for empiring. And what I mean by that is not the empire, but I'm thinking of how people don't share information. They hide it and they empire it on their laptops. We talk a lot about big data, but we do need to think about the little data as well. The data that's hiding in people's laptops, the data that's hiding in spreadsheets. The thing with that is that by empiring the data is staying closed, and if your data is siloed, then your analytics will be as well. So we need to think about how we can change these situations. Now, I find it's best to really be as transparent as possible about the data within GDPR, of course. You need to work with internal senior management and sometimes emperor-like clients within the organization or perhaps outside of it if you're a consultant. Sometimes you need to manage your data like you manage the stormtroopers. It has to be lined up and things have to be in a nice format in order for visualizations to be made. The thing with that is, how can you try to encourage people to start to make the most of their data? And I believe that actually the people skills are just as sustainable and really important, just as much as the technical skills. We need to gather our troops together like a Jedi Knight, using the Force, the data, to sort of bind us, but also using empathy and trying to understand where people are coming from. I see lots of challenges in digital transformation around the data. It often looks as if organizations are using their data, but actually they're not always using it in the best way. We have to work out what people mean by business value. So the business value for your organization might be different from mine or from someone else's. When I hear data science being discussed, I often hear people talk about deriving value, but what does that actually mean? And how do you measure that? The reality is that business value means different things to different organizations. So for some, that might be cost reduction. For others, that might be customer retention. For others, that might be trying to work out which products are selling the best. None of these things are wrong as long as they really move towards lifting the business bottom line and also the profit of the organization as well. What is the vision of the organization? So sometimes we can be data driven, but it also means we need to use our insights as well. I like the term data fluency rather than data literacy. Data literacy sounds as if people are somehow data illiterate. I don't believe that's true. Studies show that even very young children understand some concepts of numbers. But what we have to do better is data translation. We have to understand better, like CP3O, what the other languages are saying and trying to understand how we can express that best so that other people can understand it. So I will never understand R2D2 without CP3O. So sometimes in your organization, be a CP3O for the data, help people to understand it, and they'll be able to trust the data better. And it will also help to build your profile in the organization as well. So once you start down the dark path of data, it would dominate your destiny. You might recognize this as a Star Wars quote. I think starting off well is a good place, but sometimes people don't know where to start. So I tend to suggest to people that they pick something that has a real business value, something that will make a difference, and have a business first attitude. The technology is there to support the business. So let's make that happen. Let's be people centered. Going from please to thank you is really about the attitudes that we should have when we're helping people with their data, right from the ETL or the ELT, like Joe just mentioned, right through to the very end product. What are we trying to do for people? Let's go from please to thank you. Let's hear a thank you at the end that's heartfelt from our customers and our users when they finally get what they want. If you're not sure where to start with something that's safe to fail. Just pick some data, try to play with it, see where it gets you, maybe something in an Excel spreadsheet, something that you feel that you can make a start on in understanding the data, and look for something that will surprise people. If you're not sure which project to start, sometimes doing a stage gate approach is a good one. That's where people start to bid for business intelligence reports and dashboards to be implemented next, and you tend to choose the ones that will have the most business value. Also, be careful what people mean by agile. Sometimes they can mean agile, or sometimes they can mean badly implemented waterfall in disguise. So I think it's coming back to the original term that we just mentioned when we looked at Darth Vader. We have to think about it's all about the people and make it all about them. Everyone means different things when they talk about different terms, and everyone brings different things to the table. What we're looking for is consensus, collaboration, and cooperation. And that will really help us all to do better, to make our data work. So with that, I want to make sure we all stay in time. My name is Jennifer Stirrup, and I'm really thrilled to be here. You can get in touch with me over Jen Stirrup or datarelish.com, subscribe to our newsletter, or find us on Twitter. I think what I'd love to hear from you is your thoughts on how you make your data work in your organization. And with that, I look forward to hearing your questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen, for the amazing presentation. We do have plenty of questions. I'll start with Data Relish. I want to learn more about, first of all, the name of the company and what do you do?
So about the name of the company, we chose Data Relish because I really wanted people to relish their data and really enjoy it and have a sense of fun. I don't know about you, but I love playing with data. I love showing people things that they did not know before with their data. I love it when my team do it for me as well. One of my team had me on the seat of my chair earlier today explaining some of the data insights he'd found, and I just kept saying wow. And I want to do that for other people, and I guess that's what I think Data Relish is about. As a team, we want people to look at their data in a new light and really be excited by what they see, and most of all, I want to hear a wow.
Yeah, those wows are really, really worthy. I get it. Another question came in from Gordon. He's saying, do you find analytics programs are more like Jawas, did I even say that right? Than Jedis, scouring the organizational desert for useful bits of data in the hopes of creating some value. Any recommendations to becoming a data Jedi?
Yes, so they're two separate questions. I'll answer them both separately. I think that's right. I think sometimes it's a desert, but I think what I tend to see are data puddles. We talk a lot about data lakes, but I think we actually see small data muddy puddles around the place where people have got useful bits of data, but they don't tie them together. I think I personally like putting data sources together, like Joe just mentioned with ETL or ELT. I would just choose the best paradigm to get a richness of the data, because data is so interesting when you put it with other sides of data. So I think to do that, I'd start small, and I would just try and join some data together and put them on the same dashboard next to one another. Just that. I once did that for one customer who burst into tears. I thought it upset her. And she said, I've been desperate to see that for 23 years. She'd worked in the same organization for 23 years and she'd never seen that before. And she cried and she went out to the toilet to compose herself. So sometimes you can have such a huge impact with data that I just think it's incredible. I did the same for one customer, joining data together using ELT. It wasn't much. It was a quick job. It was a favor just to show that it worked. And she cried as well. She said, she said, I spend an hour every night before I go home jamming data together. And she said, this means I can go home early to be with my children. And that just made me, sort of melt. Because I think if you help people with their data, you really give such a great impact in ways that you don't always see.
Yeah, as long as they're tears of joy and not tears of sorrow that you're bringing to people's eyes. The final question I'll have for you is, you mentioned that you like the term data fluency over data literacy. And I wanted to know, what are some of your tips or some advice on how do we increase data fluency within an organization?
I think it's data fluency or data literacy. People keep talking about it as if it's a language. I prefer fluency because I think it's kinder. Sometimes the world of data, it can sometimes be a bit unkind to people getting started out. Hence the last question about being a data Jedi.
Yeah.
With data fluency, I think that recognizes the context and the grammar. So somebody sent me a scientific paper about COVID. I could read it because I'm literate, but I had no idea what it actually said. I didn't understand a word of it because I don't have a science background in biology. It's not my thing. I could read it because I'm literate, but I was not fluent in it. So I think for me that's an important distinction. I don't really feel comfortable with the term data literacy. I'd rather say things like improve fluency by encouraging people to learn the building blocks, but also learn about the context. I would say a good thing would be to understand how data visualization can trick people accidentally. Things like shortening and widening the y-axis. Even getting people to spot these things. I would say the first step is to spot where data visualization is wrong. Start there and work your way up.
Yes. Well, Jen, thank you so much. We've got a lot of people talking about how they've never made anyone cry tears of joy, unfortunately. So you, David says you are a hero. Yes, if you can, save some time for people with your work, I think that's really great. And people really love your story. So thank you again for being here, and we will see you online. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much, Kate.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our very next speaker. We've got Daliana Liu, who's going to talk to us about the 3 things that make a data analyst great. Daliana is a senior data scientist at Amazon with over 7 years of industry experience. She shares data science and career tips on LinkedIn and has over 70,000 followers. If you're not already following her, I highly recommend that you do. She interviews data scientists and AI researchers on the Data Scientist Show to talk about their career journey. I'm going to go ahead and bring Daliana up on our virtual stage here. Hello. Welcome to the DATAcated Expo.
Hi, Kate. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Happy to have you here. I'm gonna give you the stage and let you take it away. I'll be back in 10 minutes with some questions.
Cool. Hello, everyone. I'm Daliana. So today I will talk about 3 things that make a data scientist or data analyst great. So a lot of times when someone asks us to give them some data analysis, we're very eager to get into the data and do the analysis. And sometimes we find that when we present to the stakeholder, it's not what they are looking for. So my first tip is always take a step back, ask why they are looking for this analysis. I'll give you an example. If your manager asks you to give them the sales, the overall company sales from last year, and your natural response probably is, okay, I'll get the last year's of total sales for you. But if you ask them, hey, what are you going to use with this number? They might ask, oh, I want to use last year's sales to predict next year's, to prepare how many people I want to hire to plan for next year. Then you know, oh, I can get last year's sales, but I have the monthly data. I can actually run a prediction model to help you forecast the next year's sales. Wouldn't that be better for the business? And also now you know your manager, your CEO want to plan for next year. So then you realize, oh, actually in the database, we also have the data for cost. Do you want to understand what is the cost for the business? Maybe you want to also suggest to look at the return of investment, the ROI. So there are a lot of things that you can do to help the business make a better decision, because your manager doesn't always know the context of the data. When it asks for something, sometimes that might not be the best question to solve their problem. And as a data scientist or data analyst, our job is not just to provide a solution, it's to provide the right solution for the business to thrive. So the first one is always, instead of just say yes to analysis, always ask why and think like a business owner. And also, before you dive into the data, do the analysis, make sure you understand the data, meaning what is the limitation of the data? So sometimes the columns, the features, they have names that seems very obvious, but maybe the people who give those names also have their assumptions. What do the sales or revenue mean? Do they mean the revenues are realized, actual revenue, people already paid you? Or is the revenue that what you're supposed to have, but maybe people haven't transferred the money to the company yet? There are a lot of nuances. I'll give you one example. When I work in my first team in Amazon, we want to measure what is the daily sale based on a certain campaign. So if you want to look at the daily number, there's a small nuance that if someone see the campaign right before midnight and then make a purchase after midnight, does it count as a sale for yesterday or for today, right? And there's no wrong answer to this, but there's always some assumptions around the data you're going to make. So if you think about those are not about building complicated models. It's about defining your solution, defining the metric. And you need to be very careful about what assumption you make, and remember to document assumptions, because at the end of the day, people might ask you, okay, how did you arrive at this number? So first thing is ask for the purpose of your analysis. Understand the bigger picture and think as a business owner to see how you can contribute to this analysis. And second one is understand the data and understand assumptions you make before you do the analysis. And a second tip is always sync up with your manager or stakeholder during the analysis. You might think, okay, I already communicated a lot during the first step, right? Ask why. Why do I have to always sync up? The thing is, business goals changes. Maybe they want something else during the course of your analysis. And it's very important to do stakeholder alignment throughout your entire process. you might have those experiences that you provide some analysis. They're like, oh, we actually changed. You want to look at something else, right? So it's important for you to, during your weekly sync up with your manager, to let them know what you're working on and whether this is still relevant for them. Especially when you present your results, a lot of mistakes I made early in my career is I want to finish everything and then present to my manager. And then realize what I think about the problem is different about what I think about a problem. So your manager doesn't really care whether your plots are beautiful or your table is pretty. Even if your results is half-baked, don't be afraid to show your manager and get their feedback. So adopt this type of thinking that doesn't matter whether you're building a dashboard or model, you're essentially building a product using data for someone to use, right? So you need to approach the solution like a product manager to get feedback and then constantly adjust your solution. So sometimes when you present your finding, when you're 100% confident, sometimes it's too late. Don't be afraid to show your results early, be flexible, take feedback, and adjust your analysis. Another thing is when we work on analysis, sometimes we run into issues about accessing data, or when we look at the data, we realize, oh, this data cannot answer the question. It's okay to communicate your challenges with your manager and ask for help. So it doesn't really matter whether you solve this problem by yourself or with the help of another data scientist or data engineer. It doesn't mean you're incompetent. So voicing the challenges you face also make your manager trust you more. So the earlier you are able to ask for help, get resource, the faster you're going to solve the problem, right? So knowing when to ask for help and who are you going to collaborate with is also very important during the process. And the third tip is present the results as you are a business owner. So what does this mean? Now you have asked the right questions, you have arrived at your analysis, now you're going to present the results to your manager. And sometimes it's through a presentation, sometimes it's through an email. Let's start with email first. I see a lot of great data science, brilliant data science send very long emails. They just dumping all the charts and tables in email. And just imagine how do the recipient of email feel when you look at those reports. Imagine your manager probably see 100 emails a day. And then when you see your long email, it's very hard for them to understand what you're trying to communicate. So there's a saying that it's easy to write a long email, but it takes a long time to write a shorter email. So if you put yourself in your manager's shoe, make sure you have a short narrative about your analysis in the beginning of the email. Summarize what you have found. Okay, this is the data we're using. This is the result. This is what I recommend. Always have a so what section. So it doesn't help your managers make decision if you just present a number, right? So I think next year we should make certain decisions based on the sales we forecasted or based on some numbers. Have a recommendation. It's okay that your manager doesn't take a recommendation, but they are interested in your perspective. And then you can say, okay, I arrived this conclusion based on this chart, this table. And then you can say, okay, look at the first table below. What does it say? If you are using some jargons, make sure you explain them. For example, even if sales, hey, and then you can add a note. Here's how I define monthly sales, daily sales. I use certain table, how many data points I use, and those are the charts. What do they look like? What do they mean? So always have your summary, the short summary in the beginning of your email, and then show your tables later. Don't dive into the details too fast. So that's for the email. have empathy for the people who are reading your email. And the second one is, okay, now if you're not writing an email, you're giving a presentation, right? Same thing. Talk about your results first. A lot of us want to present from, okay, based on the order of how you approach analysis. Hey, this is what I do first, and then second arrive this results. No, your stakeholders don't care about the order of how you do analysis. They want to see the results and they want to know why, and they care about why, what type of decision they should make based on your results. So show your results first and then explain your approach. And also, it's important to explain the caveats. And it's okay that your model analysis is perfect. And know that there is never a perfect or a model or analysis. There's something, but as long as it meets the business goal, then it's good enough. So having this discussion is also important to earn trust from your manager. And I wouldn't trust if someone tells me my model, my analysis is perfect. And when you do the presentation, it's also important to know that who's going to be your audience. Is your audience technical? If you're technical, you can include those details. If your audience is not technical, then you might need to use some analogies or using some simple words to explain those complex statistical solutions. So when you present your results, it's very important to have empathy for your the email recipients, for whoever listened to your presentation. Also, remember to present the most interesting thing first and leave out the detail. Don't jump into the details, and leave room for discussion, and be honest about the caveats of your solution. So here are my 3 tips that will help you become a better data analyst. So that's review them. The first one is take a step back, think like a business owner. The second one is to sync up with your stakeholder, align with goals, ask for help when you need them. And third one is when you present, structure your presentation or email from the perspective of the recipient. And that would be it. Do you have it? Happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Deliana, thank you so much for this amazing presentation. You've shared so many great tips, and I really thank you for that. We have a lot of questions that are coming at you right now. We're going to try to take at least 2 of them. So let's go ahead and start with a question from Gordon. He says, many people claim to be data analysts, but they're not. So a telltale for him is when they ask for any requirements. Any other tips that you have on, how do we identify if an analyst is good or great?
Yeah, thanks, Gordon, for asking the question. I think good or great are subjective. And I think right now, if you look at the job descriptions, data analyst, data scientist, sometimes they're very similar. So I don't think there has to be a strict requirement, right? Maybe for some companies you're using Excel, you can solve the business problem. You can be a data analyst. Maybe in some jobs that requires you to, you have to use Python, and then that's a data analyst, the data scientist. So I think good to great data analyst or data scientist depends on 2 things, right? One is whether it has the technical skills that's good enough to solve the problem in this specific industry, right? And I'm not gonna say you have to know this and that. Like I mentioned, depends on the role. The second is, like I mentioned in the talk, whether you can think bigger than the task you're assigned, right? Whether you're able to think like a business owner to solve the problem. Now, when you have challenges, whether you are able to put on different hats. Sometimes you need to do some engineering work. Sometimes you need to work like a product manager. So I think someone takes extreme ownership and is able to be flexible, wear multiple hats, are the sign of being a great data analyst.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Another question here from Mike. He says, being a data analyst for a business, do you need to be good at business analysis? For example, do you have to know how the whole business works?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when you're starting in a job, just focusing on maybe a specific skill set, I don't want you to feel you have to overwhelm to know the entire business. Maybe you do need to know the business on a high level. And I think this is a great question because it means you want to take time to learn about the business little by little. I don't think we should separate, oh, I'm a data analyst, I don't need to know the business, right? You're solving a business problem. Sometimes knowing the business make you also realize, oh, maybe I should look at this data, but currently we don't have, then you can propose we should collect that data or we should buy some public data. So
Yeah.
I would say on a high level, know the industry your company is in. A second, know more detailed specific in the business of the current department you are working for. And also, don't overwhelm yourself because you're hired as a data analyst. So that's your specialty. And focus on that. And once you're more comfortable with the technical skills and the tools, just learn more about the business and don't just read documents. Have lunch. Now we're remote. Ping them. Hey, can I have a virtual coffee chat with someone who's like a business developer, marketing, sales? Make friends with them. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. And then we'll take one last very important question from Harpreet. Have you always been awesome, or did it take a lot of work?
Thanks, Harpreet. Yeah, I think. Do you mean this talk or the data science work?
I think it just means you're awesome in general, Daliana. I think it's just a way of complimenting you, which I think you did a great job with the presentation. Where can people go to continue the conversation?
Yeah, I think you can join my newsletter. It's free at www.dalianaliu.com. And also, I launched a podcast called The Data Scientist Show a few weeks ago. Interview data scientists, data analysts, and AI researchers to talk about their career journey, the cool things they're working on, the tools they use, and how to be a great data scientist. So if you're interested, go to YouTube, Spotify, Apple to learn more from other data scientists.
Awesome. All right. Well, Daliana, thank you so much for your time here. I will see you online.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, everyone.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and bring up our big closer for part 1 of the DATAcated Expo. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Mr. Bruno Aziza. He's going to talk to us about data hubs, fabrics, and how to make data simple. Bruno is the head of data and analytics at Google Cloud. He specializes in scaling businesses and turning them into global leaders. He is focused on high growth software as a service, enterprise software, everything data, analytics, data science, and AI. He was educated in the US, France, the UK, and Germany. He has written 2 books on data analytics and enterprise performance management. He also advises companies on how to grow high performance teams and scale businesses, regardless if they are a venture-backed startup or a large enterprise software company. All right, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring Bruno up on our virtual stage here. Hello, Bruno. Welcome. Oh, look at that.
How you doing, Kate?
What a coincidence. The sun must be out. What has happened? We've got to have fun, right, Bruno?
Absolutely, yeah. So these are the smart glasses. Let me take a photo of you so we can remember this moment. These are the smart glasses that I use to do my weekly updates on everything data, AI, and analytics.
These are not my smart glasses. These are glasses that TCS sent me to wear for running. But Bruno, I really
make them smart. You make them smart by wearing them, Kate. So don't worry about that.
Thank you so much. Yes, well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm going to hop off the stage and I'll be back in 10 minutes to ask you a bunch of questions. So feel free to go ahead and get started.
That sounds good. So hopefully you can see my slides. I've got 32 slides in less than 10 minutes. And so we're going to go pretty fast. I'm kidding. I do have 32 slides, but I'm not planning on covering all of them today. First of all, I want to give you the opportunity to make sure that we are not just talking today, that we also connecting beyond this presentation. And there are 3 ways you can find me online. The most obvious way is what we were just talking about with the sunglasses here. Every Sunday, I give an update on everything data, AI, and analytics from my car. We call it the CarCast. And so if you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll be able to get that, and feel free to ping me. Anything that you find interesting that I should be highlighting, let me know. Second, as Kate noted, I write on Forbes every month, and I blog on a weekly basis as well. So you'll be able to follow me there. And then finally, if you want to hear stories about customers that are succeeding in the space of data analytics, we just launched a new program called Data Journeys. You can see here some of the guests already. Chief Data Officer from KeyBank, Mike Onders, and you can see many of the other personalities we invited to share with us essentially what they're seeing in the space and how they're able to succeed. I'll let you take a look at that. I'm assuming Kate will also publish the decks, so you'll get access to all these links. What are customers telling us today? It's pretty straightforward, and you're probably seeing it yourself. There's undeniable trends in the industry, and they're very simple. We have more data, more user, more use cases. You know that there's a huge proliferation of information. I'm sure everybody else has talked to you about that. You know that you have the opportunity to make data accessible to a lot more folks, but you also know that just making it accessible without really a purpose requires that you have to think about what are the use cases that we not just pilot, but we actually bring into production. The issues that we see and we talk to customers about at scale is that they're running into these 3 issues, and these are kind of goals that they want to deal with, is breaking down the silos, not just looking at data in the past, but looking at data in the future and being able to be in control of their future, and then finally making data accessible to everyone. Now, that sounds great, but there are 3 types of issues customers are dealing with. One is level of maturity. One of the big reasons for why we're here today is that how do you elevate the maturity of your team, your infrastructure, as well as the technology that you use? When we talk about silos, the reality is that, yes, many of you are moving from on-prem to the cloud, but you might be moving to hybrid environments, on-prem plus cloud, multiple on-prem plus multiple cloud. So how do you think about governance around that? We're going to talk a lot about data hubs and data fabric in this section. And then finally, how do you handle the complexity, not just of the data, but the ecosystem's complexity? If you just looked at this past week, in fact, I was pointing you to my Forbes piece. This month, I covered the big data landscape that Matt Turk had published. If you've not read this piece, you'll find that there are a lot of organizations that you need to take a look at and consider as you move into your modern data stack. Just so you compare it to the very first iteration of this landscape, this is what it looked like about 8 years ago. So if you're not convinced of the complexity and the fast running and fast creation of organizations that can enable your business, just take a look at those and you'll be able to notice kind of the big differences in our space. And it's not just in our space, by the way. This is true just across the board. IDC said that by 2023, over 500 million digital applications and services will be developed and deployed using cloud-native approaches, particularly taking advantage of low-code, no-code. If you look at the MarTech business, there's 8,000 of them today, and in 2011, there's only 150. So the reality of our world is that you want this. You want simplicity. You want an interface that you don't have to train people on. But the reality is that this is what you get. So how do you go from this complex world here that you're looking at to the simple interface that we talked about here, of course, at Google? We've been doing this for decades, where we're taking the complex world, fast-moving, highly disconnected data points and information across the internet, and then making it accessible through one simple interface that anybody can use, right? And the only thing that really is between those 2 things, to go from complexity to simplicity, is exceptional intelligence and exceptional personalization and context setting. If you didn't like the ball from before, this is what it looks like for any organization today. You're dealing with data warehousing, data lakes, data marts, databases, and you're starting to set up some semantics, you're starting to set up some organization, but quickly as you're making changes, things are becoming a nightmare to manage. And this is where the concept of the data fabric, of the data mesh come together. Now, how do you get there is really the big question for many of us. Can you just get a data mesh or data fabric going tomorrow? And the reality is that what we're seeing today is that organizations kind of evolve through at least 3 stages in their maturity. The first one is this idea of the data ocean. And the data ocean is kind of an evolution beyond the data lake. You know, what I like about the data ocean is that it's open-ended, and it's open-ended for discovery. A data lake is kind of closed out inland sometimes. But the idea is that you've now found places, landing zones, where all your data can be hosted in just about any format. And this is where you need a lot of choice. You need to be able to store data in a relational manner. You need to be able to store data as documents. You need to be able to think about all the formats that are required, open source, proprietary formats, so you can have your data in this data ocean. The next piece is the piece that is about building a data mesh. And the data mesh is really around a few key concepts. This idea that you can now centralize the data so you can govern it in a central manner. You have central definitions, metadata, security protocols you can use, but you can also decentralize the access to it. This is something Tom Davenport calls centralization of data and decentralization of analytics. This is an important consideration because when you think about centralizing data, it's going to enable you, of course, to govern it at scale, but it's also going to allow you to create better quality of your machine learning algorithms, because with more data, you get better results. But you also want to now be able to federate it out so people can now self-serve to that data, prepare it, augment it, do whatever they need that is relevant to their business. As we heard from the previous presenter, you know, a lot of what you need in order to succeed is business context. You know, 1 data point is important, 2 data points is probably more important, but the data points by themselves without the business context can't really enable you to advance your business. Ultimately, beyond the data fabric and the data mesh concept, companies evolve to what we call the data ecosystem, where now you're doing more sophisticated work. You might be sharing data at scale. The issue with sharing data today, we know, is very difficult to share the data and not having to copy it, and also share more than data. What we believe in is going to happen in the next 5 years is that organizations are going to use data sharing platforms to share analytics. So they'll share the data, but also share the results of the models and the rich data applications they've built on top of it. They want to get people closer to the final result that data have. If you think about the old way of data sharing, it was very much like giving someone a gift card. Here is a data set, and you got to do a lot of work before you can get to value. Kind of the same idea of a gift card. Here's an errand that you got to go and run. And so the future of data ecosystems is going to be inclusive, data sharing at scale, and analytics sharing at scale. So I really want to invite you to kind of think about that beyond the data hubs. Now, there are a lot of more resources that are available to you in order to understand this concept of data architecture, data mesh, and how, you know, my favorite quote here on this slide is how you can take care of the complexity without creating complications for your organization. So this is research from Wayne Eckerson and his team. It's probably one of the best pieces of research on data hubs and data mesh. And then, of course, McKinsey and company have started kind of sharing kind of what are the transformations you need to go through in order to establish a data hub and simplify access to data. There's 6, you know, the first one we talked about, going from on-prem to cloud, batch to real-time, going from pre-integrated to modular, decoupling data access, domain-based architecture, and extensible frameworks are some of the key concepts you got to think about. Of course, we can't cover all of that in 10 minutes, but what I thought I would give you at least some pointers on the key research pieces that you could take a look at. And then finally, of course, if you want to go to the genesis of all this, this is a great paper to read by the inventor of the term, the data mesh. She's also going to have a book in January, so I want to kind of invite you to connect with her and take a look at the book. More important than anything, I also want to invite you to think about how all this work relates to your environment and how you want to build with agility first. So think about the example earlier where I showed the google.com webpage. That's the end result. So while the technology and the architecture diagrams are important, you're trying to enable a simple liquid relationship with data, highly personalized, highly contextual. So remember on the way there, this is probably my closing slide here. Intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. If you haven't been able to read the sentence here on that t-shirt, In other words, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So read the research, think about the context for data mesh and simplifying kind of access to data while you govern it centrally, and then take a look at these research pieces. And if there's anything I can do to help, of course, reach out to me as I explained on LinkedIn. Before I hand it over to Kate, I want to quickly fly by you some additional resources I have added to this deck for you, which are all architecture diagrams that enable you how to do all of what I've talked about using the Google Cloud technology. They are what I call simplifiers. They're great ways for you to understand the technology and quickly ramp up on how we can help you make data simple for your organization. Kate?
Yes, you said my name. I'm here. How's it going?
I think I did it in the allotted 10 minutes.
Yes, you did, Bruno. Thank you so much. That was jam-packed of great insights. We have a lot of questions for you. I know we don't have too much time, but we still have time to take a couple. Yes? You're still?
Absolutely.
All right. We're going to start with an easy one from Ravit. Where is your car? I heard you do these shows from your car, so lots of questions about your car here.
Yeah, so my car is downstairs, but I think what he's referring to is the picture here. Let me see if you can see it on the bottom left is the CarCast that I do. So what I do is I try to provide a service to the community. Last week's episode was 111. So I've been doing that every weekend without interruption for over 2 years. And it started with working with Chief Data Officer who's telling me, look, the space is super overwhelming. I don't know what's important. If somebody could summarize for me every week the top 5 things, that'd be super helpful. And so I started doing that. And since then, the community every week just sends me articles and things that they think is relevant. This is not for vendors to use that as a marketing tool. This is really a service for the community to help each other. So if you're in the audience now and you've got things that you think you want me to talk about, don't hesitate. Connect with me on LinkedIn and send me that stuff. And I'll do my best to highlight it every Sunday night.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. Next question is from Mike. He says, at Google, you deal with clients with huge data sets. Does a larger data set need a different mindset or approach?
That's right. So we do deal with some of the largest scale issues in the industry. I mean, we've got great customers like Twitter and the Home Depot, an insane amount of scale required, not just scale of data, but the speed as well as which that they need to be able to make decisions. I would say that, if you had asked me that question 10 years ago, I'd say probably, but I would say that right now, everybody's got a big data problem, right? So in fact, we should probably just remove the big from data. Every data you have is big because, the opportunity that you have to work with information is just out of, imagination right now. If you think there's 2 vectors to look at, if you think about inside your company walls, are you capturing absolutely everything that you think would be required to make a decision? The answer to that is we know that 2/3 of the information that's produced by your organization is not being recorded, not being used or analyzed. I think we end up analyzing about 5% of the information that actually is even in existence. That's inside your walls. If you now start thinking about the information that you need outside your wall, right? Just for us, let's say that tomorrow we have a company and we're trying to partner. I'm a retailer and you're a logistics partner, and you want to be able to share data with me. Now that's a whole body of work and a whole body of data that is available for you to take a look at, merge, add to your analysis that we're now doing today. In fact, the graphic that I use is something a customer gave me. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on camera.
Okay.
Customer at Lloyd's Bank drew this for me, and he said, this up here is your company data. All of this is your partner's data. It's the opportunity you have to work with more information. So I would say to your question, no, same mindset. You're already in the big data business and you want to build day one for scale because there's no downside to it, especially now where storage and compute is so much cheaper than it was, maybe a year ago.
Right. I love the visual you just shared because it'll be interesting to see what's the world of data, right? You need a really big post-it for that one, and also the data that people actually end up using within the company. Yeah. So very, very interesting visual. Next question here is going multi-cloud a good strategy?
Absolutely. So I think there's research in the market that shows that about 70 or plus % of organizations have a multi-cloud strategy today, and it's going up to 90% for the future. And so I think, again, it's the reality of, your business. Of course, if you're hearing this from me as Google, you're thinking I want you to have all your data into my cloud. The reality, though, as someone that's been in the space, is I know that by default, the minute you start partnering with other companies, they might have made different cloud decisions. And so the question is, how can we enable an architecture that is modern enough so you can use data from just about any cloud? For sure, moving to the cloud is absolutely, in our space, the trend. I think Gartner said 75% of database are going to be in the cloud next few years. So if you've missed that train, I would try to get to that as fast as possible. But it didn't say everything in one cloud. They said that likely we'll have a multi-cloud environment for a long time. So if I were you, I'd look to partner with the vendor that has the best multi-cloud strategy, because that's going to be your reality.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Phil's asking if the presentation will be available. I was actually going to propose if you can post the slides as a document on LinkedIn. I think that might be the easiest way for folks to first find you, right, and then follow you on LinkedIn. And I know you can download things once you've uploaded them as a document.
Absolutely. I will post that on my profile. So just come look for me, and then you'll be able to download it right from there. From SlideShare, I think it's easiest.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then I'll take one last question here from David about data mesh and data sharing at scale. Is there any particular tool, oh, this is funny, in order to accomplish this from Google Cloud maybe? What is your preference, Bruno?
Well, David, I don't know if you work for Google, but thanks for the question. Yeah, absolutely. There are two products I would suggest you take a look at. One is a product called Dataplex, which is our intelligent data fabric product. You'll hear a lot about it next week at the Google Next event, which is happening October 12th. This is a product we introduced a few months ago back in May. I think it was May 26th, if I remember correctly. And then finally, there's another product you should look at called Analytics Hub, which is designed to enable organizations to share analytics assets internally and externally in a secured manner and at scale. So absolutely, two products to look at: Analytics Hub, Dataplex, and then, of course, the key product to look at for storing your data at scale is Google BigQuery, is what I would look at.
Okay, awesome. Well, Bruno, thank you so much for your time here. I will see you online, guys. As a reminder, again, follow Bruno Aziza on LinkedIn, and are you on Instagram as well? I think you are.
I'm not really active on Instagram. LinkedIn is really the place. I mean, if you look like I do, you probably don't want to spend as much time on Instagram. So
I think I've seen you there. Maybe Bernard Mars posted something.
Maybe so, yeah. I'm on LinkedIn most of the time. But thanks for having me, and I'm excited to be engaged with your community, and then hopefully this was helpful to them today.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you so much, Bruno. All right.
Have a good one.
I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. I know people love giveaways, so I am going to do one final giveaway as I wrap things up. And you might have guessed it, we're giving away a DATAcated pillow. I still remember one of the winners from last time. He actually has this displayed on his LinkedIn profile. He wears this DATAcated badge proudly. So if you've enjoyed part 1 of the DATAcated Expo, definitely type in the hashtag DATAcated. We are going to go on a break very soon, so just wanted to highlight that we're not ending for the day. I decided to do this one longer full day event. I think it's a little bit easier to manage than doing a 3-day event, especially for people who have to maybe take time off work if they want to join. So yes, Avery, we are doing a pillow giveaway. So hashtag DATAcated to participate. I'm going to share my screen so we could see how many people are going to be entered into this raffle. I'll give it a couple of minutes to get you, let you actually get your entries in. As I do that, a few quick things to wrap up with for part 1. We are breaking for about 35 minutes, so we will be back at 3 p.m. Eastern for another 3 hours of DATAcated fun. I'm going to probably go have lunch and maybe a third cup of coffee to make sure I've got the energy for you guys for the next 3 hours. And we have some really fun trivia coming up in the next session as well, with more giveaways, of course. And yep, I see a lot of hashtag DATAcated coming in here. Hopefully you've enjoyed the presentations. I'm actually going to send a link after the second session and I'll share it with you on LinkedIn as well, where we're going to try and get some feedback on some of these sessions. So let's see. Mike says he needs the pillow to rest from all the data talk. Yeah, what do you think I do when I hop backstage after I introduce people? I've got my pillow here, get comfortable, listen to some data talks. All right, I'm going to give it another minute or so. And quick reminder, again, if you have not already officially registered for the DATAcated Expo, it is not too late. We're going to go ahead and, send out all of the recordings by tomorrow. I'm going to create a full YouTube playlist where you can watch each of the sessions sort of standalone if you wanted to watch specific talks, or in case you missed something and you really wanted to catch up. So go to datacated.com/expo to sign up so you can get on our DATAcated list. Let's see. Amanula, DATAcated pillows, that's DATAcated under your heads in real time. Yes. Oh, I see a couple of people joining here. Oh, you'll see Anne later on in this afternoon. She's going to be speaking to us as well. Jeff says, have a sandwich. Ever since that talk from George Fieriken, I feel like we've all been hungry for either a burrito, a hot dog, a hamburger, a sandwich, or whatever, a cheese, what is that? A grilled cheese sandwich. That's something I think I might have. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and do the draw. I'll go bigger screen here so you could see the winner. For the DATAcated pillow, the winner is, and I'm going to go ahead and write this down. Congratulations to Diego. Thank you for participating. I'm going to go ahead and sync up with you after the full event is over and make sure that you get the DATAcated pillow. All right, guys, please tune back in 35 minutes at 3 p.m. I will see you then. Thank you so much for sticking around.